Coming to you from the TLD studios in Temecula, California, it's the Whiskey Throttle Show, taking you deep inside the lives of the legends and leaders of our sport. This week's guest is brought to you by Yamaha, the leaders in the power sports industry. Motocross bikes, street bikes, adventure bikes, side-by-sides, quads, boats, generators. Yamaha sets the standard. Yamaha revs your heart. Method Race Wheels, the strongest, lightest, fastest wheels in off-road. Method dominates the off-road market with wheels for your truck, Sprinter, Jeep, or UTV. Go to methodracewheels.com/whiskey throttle for 20% off your order. Troy Lee Designs, built for the world's fastest racers. TLD blends elite level protection with industry-leading style and performance. Moto, bike, helmet paint, casual wear, whatever your passion, Troy Lee Designs is waiting for you on the next level. Nihilo Concepts, enhance your riding experience with superior products like the Start-Stop Conversion Kit, Fuel Petcocks, Frame Grip Tape, Lever Grip, Grip Donuts, Secondary On Switch, Billet Foot Pegs, Billet Throttle Housings, and so much more. Nihilo Concepts produces exceptional products, all of which are made right here in America. And by SKDA. SKDA is the ultimate destination for exceptional motocross graphics, customer service, and artistic excellence. Trust them to elevate your ride and showcase your individuality on the track, making every ride an exceptional experience. Hey folks, thanks for joining us here at the Whiskey Throttle Show. I'm your host, David Pingree, and great guest today, somebody that I've known for an awful long time, and I'm stoked to get him on here and get his story. He's typically a man of few words, not really divulging too much, but as he's been recently retired from Suzuki, maybe we can get something out of him. Pat Alexander, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you, David.
And as I was diving through this, man, I knew you'd been at Suzuki a long time. You've been at that brand as long as anyone in the industry has been anywhere. And it gives you a unique perspective coming through, first of all, so many different positions. You were a mechanic, you were a team manager, you did road racing and motocross and amateur, and then overseeing all of it. You went through works bikes in that era, which I really want to pick your brain about. You've worked with so many people, and you even, our paths intersected quite a bit. So I'm really excited to go through your story. So thanks for coming on.
Thank you.
We start all of our shows with the Method Race Wheels front end chatter. You guys are familiar with this. Lightest, strongest, fastest wheels in off-road racing. And it's just a couple of questions here. Tell me, kind of as I mentioned, how many years were you at Suzuki? And can you give me as many of the titles as you had there that you can remember?
Well, I was there 43 years. Jeez. And I started out, as you were talking about, I was a mechanic for Danny Laporte. It was my first job at Suzuki.
Which is a pretty, right into the deep end, huh?
Oh, yeah, pretty much. It's a funny story how it started out. Obviously, I was working for DG back then, and then I was hired on at Suzuki. I got to know a guy by the name of Brian Linus, and he kind of pushed, I guess, Suzuki towards me.
Okay.
And got the call and ended up at Suzuki. And then, I sent one of those pictures to you.
Yeah.
That first picture is Gainesville, Florida.
With you and Laporte?
And Danny and Brigette and Hannah.
Okay.
Right? And so if you look closely, I don't even have a Suzuki shirt on. I've got a DG shirt on.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Fresh.
Yeah, that was my first photo outside of California.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Now, you were well, we'll get there. I don't want to start your story midstream, but how many titles did you hold there? Kind of go through them.
Okay. I was a mechanic. Then I was the race team manager for motocross. Mm-hmm. Then I was the support manager, which entailed amateur racing, basically.
Okay.
But in that, I started the contingency program at Suzuki. We did the RM Cup at Suzuki. We did the Good Scholar program. Mm-hmm. We did a lot of things. I worked with a good friend of mine, Joe Columbaro. Mm-hmm. He and I kind of worked together on putting all this together.
Okay. Man, 43 years.
And then from there, I went on to become the racing manager for Suzuki.
So that oversaw everything.
Yeah.
That was when you got into the road racing.
Right.
See all that. Okay.
Right. It entailed, as you know, road racing, motocross, and it was dirt track. It was off-road. It was drag racing. Let me see. What am I forgetting here?
Did they do boat racing?
No.
I'm trying to think of what else Suzuki made.
ATV racing. It was a number of things. I did some boat racing myself when I was younger. Yeah, but that's another story.
You've done and seen it all over there. I mean, there isn't anyone that's more dialed in, connected, and knows what's going on at Suzuki over those, especially your last probably 20 years than you. You just had seen it all. So very unique perspective. In your years there and in the sport, what were some of the coolest innovations in moto? Like I said, I want to talk to you more about works bikes later, but you got to see so much development, from pretty rudimentary bikes to today.
Yeah, like you, as you know, we started out with regular motocross bikes, works bikes, but they were regular motocross bikes. They were air-cooled. The suspension was kind of rudimentary at the time. And then graduating at the end when I was involved with road racing was unbelievable.
Technology.
How much technology was in the motorcycles.
And there's still some of that stuff that hasn't really transferred over. Like we're starting to see traction control a little bit and quick shifting. Is it surprise you that some of that tech doesn't make its way to dirt?
Yes, but also in working with some of the Japanese, there's a lot of things that work for road racing that just don't equate to motocross.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, I'm anxious to get into your story here. So let's just get moving forward. Visit whiskeythrottlemedia.com, guys, if you guys are looking for bike tests, interviews, all kinds of other content. We've got it over there. New merch. We've got a forum. So check it out. Our guest story is brought to you by Yamaha, ironically. But tell us about where you grew up, Pat. Where are you from?
Well, I started out in Redondo Beach.
Okay. That's where you were born.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I was born in Santa Monica, but
okay,
I grew up in Redondo Beach. When I was about 16 years old, family moved out to Garden Grove.
Okay.
Thought it was the end of the world because I was a beach kid.
Okay. So there are no dirt bikes in your early years. You were surfing and
no dirt bikes at that time. As soon as we went out to Garden Grove, it was too far away for the beach. I mean, we thought we were...
What are you going to drive, 20 minutes?
It was 11 miles, So I got involved with motorbikes back then.
Okay.
And
because from Garden Grove, you could probably just ride right into the hills then, right?
Yeah. No. It was Saddleback.
Yeah.
Saddleback was open back then. So we used to go up and ride Saddleback. And
I can't imagine those hills back in that day when you could just take off and not get in trouble, just ride out there.
Oh, no, we got in trouble.
Oh, you did get in trouble. Oh. I thought back then you could kind of get away with it.
Well, I was down in the lower part of Garden Grove.
Okay.
And there were some fields out by the house. So rather than run to Saddleback every day, we used to go out in the field.
Mob those fields?
Yeah.
Okay.
And the police didn't like that too much.
So you would still get in trouble, huh? Like today, you go into any of the private property, or it's like kind of all reserves now, or whatever they want to call it. But you're arrested immediately. It seemed like back then they give you a little more leeway. There was open land to get away with it.
Well, I was fairly lucky, I guess. I had a sergeant in the Garden Grove Police Department that lived next door, so you kind of let things slide sometimes.
Oh, good. How would you describe kind of that era and just the vibe of it in general compared to today?
Basically, the vibe back then was it was all brand new. At least for me, it was all brand new, and it was just jumping.
Yeah.
I remember some amateur races that I was at, and the gates were full, like 3 or 4 gates are full.
Yeah.
Of amateur.
It was like that even into the 80s.
Yeah. Oh,
I remember going to Golden States and things like that. And you're like, holy cow, there's 4 heats of 125 novices, Yeah. And it's definitely fallen off on the racing side. I feel like there's still a lot of people who ride and practice, but not as many racers. It's a little different.
Well, that's kind of the sad part right now, I feel, is that it's more driven towards going to a professional race. Even as an amateur, you go to Loretta Lynn's, you go to, some of these other events that are national events, and then basically you train. You go to some track and train with somebody, and there's really no local type of racing that I see anymore. When I rode as an amateur, we were riding 3-4 nights a week, and then you could ride at Saddleback and Carlsbad Saturday and Sunday. That's what our training was.
Yeah. And maybe what's caused that is you can now ride a prepped, watered, perfect track Monday through Friday somewhere around here, right?
Yeah.
Back then, it was like all week long, it was either you're riding on the dust or you went to a race at night, right? Yeah. You guys see, there was night racing every day of the week, it seemed like almost.
Yeah. In my truck, I would go to tracks within 20 miles.
Yeah, and so because of this, I feel like there's a camaraderie in the sport that's been lost. You used to go to the races and you get to know other people and, rivalries. And I don't know, there was just something about racing that you don't get when you just go to the track, do a couple of quick motos and head home, practicing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm guilty of it too. I'm so busy at home, I don't have time to go spend a whole weekend racing, and I still want to ride. So I do understand it, but it's just a bummer to me. I feel like we all lose a little bit of that, whatever that racing would bring to you, right? There's a difference between being at a race and just going out and practicing.
I equate it to more professionalism, okay? Everybody wants to be professional, so they kind of aim towards that and, kind of put everything else aside. One of the better times that I had was going to either the ATV races or to the dirt track races. And there's guys that aren't making a whole lot of money, and there's a lot of friendship between them. So it kind of reminded me of the old
moto. Yeah. That was how the supermoto was for me when I got into that kind of after my career. Yeah. Because there wasn't a ton of money, and if you were doing it, it was because you loved it. The team owners were really passionate. They weren't making any money. They were probably losing money. And you have that vibe, that real old school, fun, connected vibe. And after the race, we're all having a beer together and eating hot dogs and like just hanging out. That doesn't happen at a Supercross.
No, not anymore. Yeah. But if you go down to Loretta Lynn's, there's a lot of fun down there.
Yeah.
The Coombs have done a good job as far as adding, a professionalism, but giving the kids a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a one-of-a-kind event. I do find off-road racing is still a little bit like that. Just a good, more community type of vibe.
That's correct.
Yeah. And so we're kind of pushing more into that here as a media company, trying to cover a little bit more of the NGPC and West Coast off-road, Hare and Hound and stuff like that. Because I really do enjoy the culture there.
Yeah. Well, you just kind of follow the money.
That's it, isn't it? The more money, I always say, the more money that comes into a sport, it kind of loses its soul.
Yes.
And you go, well, good for the riders. They deserve it. But, man, bummer.
Totally agree.
Bummer for the rest of us.
Totally agree.
So, you got any siblings?
I have a son.
Okay.
He's 19.
All right. Any brothers or sisters?
Well, yes. I have a brother that's living in New York and a sister that lives in Tucson.
Okay. You keep in touch with them?
Always with them. Yeah. They were just my sister was just over a couple of weeks ago.
Okay. When did you start riding? Like when did you get your first bike? So you'd been, what did you say?
I was about 16
when you moved to Gardner Grove. What did you do prior to that? What sports or what were you kind of involved in?
Well, obviously surfing. Involved with surfing, and then when I was in high school, I played a little bit of football at Redondo, too small for that, obviously.
I know how that goes.
But when I went to Garden Grove, I ended up getting involved in wrestling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I ended up pretty good in league.
All right.
So
You definitely had the hair for surfing, and I didn't know this till you sent me some of the old photos. Man, you were a hair farmer. You had like a big old, head of hair.
yeah,
It's good looking stuff. So what was your first bike? How did you come to get it?
believe it or not, my first bike was a Suzuki.
Of course it was. Why is that not surprising?
Yeah, but it was kind of a put together dirt tracker type of motorcycle. It was a 120 back then.
Okay. What year?
That was probably 69, maybe.
So there wasn't really even motocross bikes yet, right? It was kind of everyone would do the trailer bikes and
yeah.
take the headlights off and all
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
basically, yeah.
Okay.
But you had your Bull Tacos and Greaves back then, and some other Makos and CZs, and I ended up riding a CZ for a while too, and then I had a Penton, and that was about it for me.
Okay. Did you race? Did you get to like a professional level?
No,
Okay. Just local.
no, local amateur.
All right. But loved it? I mean, was it something like right away you were hooked, or were you just like, this is
No. I obviously I was because
so you stuck around a minute.
yeah. It's funny how I got into boat racing is I got hurt at Corona Raceway. Not bad,
Okay.
just got skinned up, but enough that I couldn't ride for a couple of weeks or so. And I was working back then, and what ended up happening, some friends of mine took me some boat races, and then I got involved in that for about a year and a half.
Okay.
Way too expensive.
Yeah, I was just saying that's not like an easy entry sport. Hey, come and buy this $100,000 boat and we'll go race.
Back then it was $100, but it was more expensive than what I could afford.
Yes, I would believe that. What would you remember your first race? Motorcycle race?
Basically it was saddleback,
Okay.
amateur.
Remember what happened? Did anything stand out?
I got my butt kicked.
That's what you remember?
Yeah.
And who was your crew back then? Like, who did you ride with, race with?
Well, basically a kid at school, his name was Mark Tyre.
Okay.
He basically introduced me to racing. He was racing back then, and
Okay.
I was riding some dirt bike and just kind of playing around, and he goes, "Oh, you should try out my CZ." He had a CZ back then,
Okay.
little 125, and so I ended up buying that from him. So he bought something else, and
He pulled you in.
yeah.
I think it's interesting when I hear of like, especially like in Mitch Payton's crew, all those guys grew up racing together and they're still together all these years later. So I just wondered if there's anyone that you kind of grew up riding and racing with back in those days that you still, like Colin Barrow, was he racing and around back then?
Yeah, but he was out in the San Bernardino area.
Oh, okay.
At the time. We were the local Garden Grove clique, and there's a guy named Harold Madden who actually was pro for a while.
Okay.
Until he blew his knee out. He was racing DeSoto back then at night races, and Tim Hart and some other guys.
Oh, Tim Hart. He was a big name out here. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And it's all local racing. Ascot basically was open back then, and
yeah, and there were so many tracks, and a lot of them, like Corona Raceway, I never got to see that. And some of the guys that come on, I'll just start rattling tracks off. I'm like, never heard of it, never heard of it, never heard of it.
Yeah,
Dianza, El Toro
Raceway, Orange County Raceway, Lions Drag Strip.
Yeah, there was a
spot.
Yeah.
Where else did we ride? There was quite a few places.
Probably close to a dozen tracks that are gone.
Oh, easily.
Was there any pro? Like, were you watching? I guess there wasn't a lot of pro racing back then. Like, were you following pro racing and who was the best in this?
Obviously,
world, maybe Grand Prix motocross or anything.
Obviously, back then, you had Cycle News.
That was it. Yeah.
So, they had these big pictures of Roger, and kind of my favorite because he looked so cool was Artie Cream.
Oh yeah,
yeah. he was a husky guy, but
Just liked his look and his feel. Yeah,
it's funny.
that's interesting. I love asking people kind of who they looked up to, because you'll get a lot of Roger, but you also get, some guys say Joe Bay or Joel Robert, or they'll have somebody different like you. And I think that's cool to hear, like, what attracted you to different people, So the injury you had, what was it?
Oh, just a minor.
Nothing major. Okay.
No. I actually got hurt more afterwards than.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So you said you were working. What was the job you had? Were you working at DG?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I don't know if you were like working there welding or something. A lot of guys did that.
Yeah, a lot of guys did that, but I was working in a gas station basically over by Disneyland.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Again, my friend Mark Tyre and I ended up at this Shell station out there.
Okay.
I was working there for a while, trying to stay racing because my parents weren't going to pay for it.
They weren't helping out.
And then going on from there, the boat thing, I ended up working for a circuit board company.
Oh.
Building circuit boards.
Okay.
That was another job.
Odd. Like, soldering things together, like that, on the line, or
before that. You start out with just a regular plywood, or not plywood, but
resin, or what the heck?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was resin and fiberglass, basically.
Okay, yeah.
With copper on top of it, and then you silk screen it. Well, you sanded it, silk screened it, then you plated it, and then you took all the plating off, the copper plating off, and that's your circuit board.
Huh. And you're just building them and just knocking them out?
Well, yeah. We were working for this company, and we used to build NCR. I don't know if you remember that company, National Cash Register. NCR, Burroughs, or some of the other ones.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And then I ended up in insurance at the end, right before then.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Health or life?
No. Fire and water damage.
Okay.
I worked for a company for a while.
Going in and scare people? Listen.
No.
You're not insured enough.
No. We'd go in and clean up.
Oh, I see. You do like restoration and
yeah, we'd go up,
damage,
lift up the carpet if it was wet, if it was water damage.
Did you see some gross stuff on fires?
Unfortunately,
yeah.
There was we didn't see the dead body, but we could smell it.
Yeah.
That was down in Laguna.
Yeah. We've had a few of those where somebody doesn't get out.
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
That's what I'm doing now. I'm still a fireman, so it's pretty gross.
Yeah.
Just charcoal briquette in bed there, or whatever.
It's not good.
It's not great. Try pulling one out of a burnt car. That's really icky. So how did you got back into racing? Who pulled you back in? The same guy?
Yep, Mark Tyre.
This guy really had a number on you.
Yeah, friend of mine, his mother passed away, and he had a house down over by Stanton, California.
Oh, Stanton. Okay.
Yeah. It's
right
right
by Knott's Farm area.
Yeah. And basically we kind of palled with him. Mark Tyre and Harold and I kind of went and lived with him for a little while, just to kind of keep things going for him.
Okay.
Then Mark was riding professional back then. In fact, he won Ascot for a month, I believe.
Every weekend.
Back then it was guys like Charlie Bauer and, other guys like that were pretty good guys.
Yeah.
And he ended up winning for like a month in a row.
Wow. So he had potential to.
Yeah. And so that's where it all started. We kind of I was hanging out with the old gang again.
Okay. Were you wrenching on his bikes, or how did that?
Nah, I was kind of just helping out a little bit. Not really. He started working with DG.
Okay.
And then he moved over to FMF for a little while. And then at that time, he decided he wanted to go on the national circuit and try his luck at that.
Okay.
And he asked me if I wanted to go. I said, okay. Sounds, back then.
Why not?
Why not? Yeah.
He was probably like, yeah, man, I'll go.
It was the 60s. Yeah. So grabbed a sleeping bag and a toolbox, and off I went for a month.
And how good of a mechanic were you at this time? Like,
Nah, rudimentary.
not really. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basic.
I hear this story a lot. Ron Even, we just had on not too long ago.
Yep.
And he goes, yeah, my first job was I was training Marty Tribes. And I go, what do you know about training? And Marty Tribes, really? Anyway, it's just, I love these stories. So, okay, you don't really have a lot of mechanic skills, but your buddy's like, let's go hit some nationals, and you go.
Yeah.
And that was a trip that kind of reignited your love for it, kind of in a way, huh? It
Yeah,
seemed like.
absolutely.
Okay.
What ended up, I had small engine classes at my school.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's where I got a little bit more of my mechanical skills from that. We were putting Briggs and Strattons together, and the teacher allowed us to bring our bikes in and work on
Oh, really?
too a little bit.
It's a shame those classes are gone.
Yeah, it really is. It was a lot of fun.
Hmm.
And then
So take me through that trip. I want to hear about this.
it was hilarious actually.
3 of you? Or
No,
just the
there
2?
was 4.
Oh, boy.
There was supposed to be 3,
Okay.
and then I was the tag along, right? Last minute tag along.
Okay.
So there's this bread truck. Basically, it was like an old Helms bakery truck. A guy by the name of Cliff Lett, I think, owned it.
Okay.
John McGonigal was another guy that was racing back then too, and then Mark Tire. And so we had that, and it had bunks in it,
Okay.
but then they had a trailer that they put all the bikes in. So it only had 3 bunks. So it was flipped to see who was going to
Oh, no.
lay down on the floor or outside, right?
Jeez.
So it's a good thing I had a sleeping bag.
Yeah. On that. And what rounds did you guys hit? Like, how did that go?
We started out, I believe, we went to Buchanan, Michigan, and then we went to Mid-Ohio for the GP.
Okay.
There's a great picture. I wish I would have kept it in the next year's
Catalog or
yeah.
brain fart. No, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Like the race
Yeah.
catalog. Yeah.
So there's a great picture of Mark Tire getting the whole shot,
Mm.
coming around the first turn. And that was on the FMF Yamaha.
Okay. What was he riding? YZ 250s then, or what would he have been riding?
No, he was
DT.
he was riding a YZ 125.
Oh, 125. Okay.
Yeah, it was a 125 GP back then.
Gotcha. Okay.
Um,
How do you do?
he did
That's okay.
Yeah,
The whole shot doesn't last.
basically his arms blew up.
Yeah.
He hadn't ridden motos like that, and so he did okay, but then his arms, his hands started blistering up really bad. So
It was 40 plus 2 back then, right?
oh yeah, it was not for the
Not for the weak. No. Okay, so then how did that transition into a job at Suzuki? Because you started there at 77. So what happened between that trip and you getting hired at Suzuki?
well. Funny as it is, Mark ended up going back to DG and riding for them, and so I was Mark's mechanic for a while. And I was able to come in at DG as a mechanic, and I was working with a guy by the name of Harry Clem.
Oh, I know. Okay.
And Harry
Clem Research.
yeah, Harry taught me a lot.
Okay.
You know?
I was going to say there has to be somewhere along here where someone sat you down. All right, let me show you this.
Yeah, no. Harry was really good.
Yeah.
And he helped me a lot.
He did some motors for like factory guys just sort of along the way.
Yeah.
Let's see, Chicken got a motor. A lot of guys got help from him.
Yeah.
Phil Lawrence.
Yep.
So, over the years.
So from there, Mark and I went down to Florida. Back then, there wasn't a 125 Florida series with the AMA. It was
250
back
500?
then, yeah, for the winter series, right? So we raced, and I wish I could remember it, it was like FTR or some Florida 125 series
Okay.
that we raced for DG back then, and it was on a Yamaha back then as well.
And that winter series was sort of the East Coast version of the Golden States, right? It was
Exactly.
a local series, but it was big.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of people raced that winter series.
Yeah, everybody from up north came down.
Mm-hmm.
So we ended up winning that championship.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Cool.
nobody. It's one of those where it's nobody knows.
Yeah.
But
That's a pretty big accomplishment, though, at the time.
Mark ended up winning that. The last race is kind of funny because the bike was basically broken in half. The down tubes on it. We were riding what they called a profab frame back then.
Okay.
It wasn't a Yamaha frame. And right at the motor mounts, the frame was cracking.
Boy.
So the last moto, and
You sent him out there with knowing it was cracked?
well, I tried to find a welder because we didn't have any welding back then on what we were doing.
Mm.
And obviously nobody's going to help because
Right.
we were winning the championship. So I took a couple of pieces of metal and basically tied them up with hose clamps and said, I told him, I go, look, if
Don't
this,
jump anything.
yeah, I know. I go, look, if this thing starts, going forward on you, the front end, and you feel it getting bad, you got to pull off. Simple as that.
Yeah.
And we ended up winning the event, but
Jeez.
it was pretty
It's
serious.
gonna be a real big confidence boost.
No.
You can push it on your bike going, So, okay, you worked for DG with him that year. How does that transition into Suzuki? How did that?
Actually, it was partially. That was in the beginning of '76.
Okay.
He ended up leaving DG. The guys at DG, Gary Harlow back then said, if you want to stay, you can stay, as a mechanic for us. And I said, yeah, sure. Because Mark wasn't paying me, so I had to make money. So I ended up staying at DG and working with guys like Brock Glover back then, and working with Dave Taylor. And actually, at the end of '76 is when the Trans USA was going on, and I was working with a guy by the name of Gary Chaplin, who came on, and I ended up going on the road with him.
All right.
So,
And what was he riding? Because DG made, it was like pro circuit. They made parts for all kinds of bikes, right? It wasn't just one brand.
well, the main thing that we were working on back then was the DG Flyers, which were 125 Hondas or 125 Yamahas.
Okay.
And they came with a profab frame, and then you would zip tie everything else on. It's kind of fun.
Pretty rough, work back then compared to today.
Yeah, absolutely. But they were decent bikes.
But didn't they built exhausts and engine work and all that stuff,
Yep.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
DG was kind of, not gone, but diminished by the time I got into the sport. So I love hearing stories about him, but I don't know a ton about it.
Yeah, they ventured off into watercraft and ATV stuff.
Gotcha.
So,
okay. So how did that take me through that transition to Suzuki from there?
well, I was working with Gary Chaplin at that time. He was riding a 370 Suzuki.
Okay.
So I ended up kind of working over by the Suzuki guys.
Getting to know him.
Yeah, Gary. Well, Gary was going, hey, those guys will help you if we got any problems. And that's where I got to know Brian Linus so well.
Okay. Who was he wrenching for?
Back then he was working for Grossi.
Okay. So you're over there begging for parts.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I know how it goes.
Yeah. So they took me under their wing.
Yeah. Ludus is he's a character.
Yeah.
Was he even back then? Same thing.
Yeah, he was a good guy. He always has been.
He's a great guy. He's just he's definitely his own person.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess you'd say.
It's funny. I haven't seen him in a while, but I used to see him on the trails behind my house.
Mountain
biking.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, he still, I think, gets after it pretty good on a bicycle. We had him on the show. Like I said, he's a very interesting character.
yeah.
pretty incredible career too. Okay, so you're working with those guys. Who else was in that crowd? Brian was there. What other mechanics or
Well,
who else was at Suzuki at the time?
at Suzuki, it was, I believe it was Brian Linus, guy by the name of Alan Hahn. Actually, Keith McCarty was there at that time. I wasn't at Suzuki. I was working for DG, obviously. And then who else was there? I don't recall who else, but those were the three main guys that I knew.
So you got in with them, and they put in a word for you, and
yeah, Brian.
Okay.
Brian said, "Hey, there might be a job opening at Suzuki. I'll put your name in." So I ended up obviously getting a call from Suzuki around December.
Okay.
And they said, "Oh, we'd like to interview you for a job." And I said, "You sure? I'll come down." And that was, going for a job interview, being a kid, basically, you're like going, "Okay, what do I wear? What am I supposed to do?" Because I'd never interviewed for anything.
Yeah. Was it corporate?
Yeah, they were in ties and stuff. I don't recall what I was wearing, but it wasn't a tie.
Well, and I think this is interesting. I experienced this getting into the fire service after racing. I had never done an interview.
Yeah.
If it's an interview, it's, "Hey, come into my office over here, kid. Let me," and it's a casual conversation.
Right.
Being in a formal interview situation is it's intimidating. It's way weird feeling, right? I got to imagine that's how you...
I can't even tell you how terrifying it is.
Just in a flop sweat going, don't say something stupid.
Yep. Yeah. Guy by the name of Toshi Koyama.
Tosh.
Yeah, Toshi.
Okay.
I went in to see him first, and that was actually not too bad.
Yeah.
He was pretty friendly.
Okay.
Believe it or not, people see Tosh and they're like going, "That guy doesn't talk," but he was absolutely pretty friendly.
I remember he and Hide both being pretty nice from back in those days. I was a little kid, but
yeah,
the few times I bumped into him, probably you introduced me to him. They were both really nice.
Yeah. The one that frightened me the most at that time was Mr. Shigenoya. I don't know if you know the name. Yeah.
I remember the name.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just
very
serious?
Very small, frail guy, but he carried a big stick, it seemed like. It was funny. I sat outside his office, and then they called me in, his assistant, and sat there felt like an eternity. And finally, he wasn't talking. He was just looking. And I finally said, "Hi, my name's Pat Alexander, and come to interview for a job." And back then, everybody was smoking. So he was back there going, "Oh, so you want to work for Suzuki, huh?" So,
wow.
Yeah. And pretty much that was it. He asked a couple of questions. I don't recall what they were. But
well, that's interesting. And so it was for that spot with Danny, be his mechanic. Did you know Danny prior to that?
No, not really. Mark Tire, again, was racing back then. I found this out later from Danny's dad. Is they were racing at Ascot, and Danny got the whole shot and fell in front of Mark, and Mark landed on him and broke his leg.
Oh.
And I remember his dad picking Danny up and carrying him off the track. And that's as much as I remember. And like I said, I didn't realize it at that time it was Danny, but I was talking to Danny's dad, and he said, "Yeah, oh yeah, that was."
But you didn't know him. You hadn't really chatted with him or met him.
No, he was living in Torrance back then, and we were Garden Grove guys.
Okay. Two different cliques.
Yeah.
What a great guy, though, right? Danny is just the best.
Wonderful guy.
I love that guy. He's so smiley and just not a bad thing to say about anybody.
Nope.
I love
a lot of fun.
Yeah. So take me through that first year, and even, you know, as you onboarded with Suzuki, the differences between being a DG versus a factory at the time.
Well, yeah, obviously there was a big difference. But you're kind of handcuffed.
Oh, okay.
Compared to what we did at DG.
You could wire tie things on over there and just wing it a little bit. And
exactly. And, you know, porting and doing stuff like that, working on heads and you know, making the bike better, basically. Where at Suzuki, it was basically regimental, is you put the bike together as we want it put together and don't touch it. And then later on, they allowed us to do more work to it based on what the Japanese wanted. So we'd get a cylinder and they'd want it ported, so we'd clean up the ports and stuff like that.
And so when you say they, was it the Japanese sending stuff over and go, this is what you use, bolt it on, and that don't touch it?
Pretty much.
All right.
Yeah.
And who was head of racing over here at the time?
Well,
or was there a head?
Well, it was Toshi Koyama was in charge of racing. And then I reported to Hide Sasaki.
Okay.
He was in charge of the motocross side of it.
And they were there for a long time too, those two. Huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny about Tosh because I just thought he was there forever, like you say about me, but I was like, he's been there forever type of thing. And he ended up retiring, right? And I didn't know his age until I finally talked to the HR people. And I said, how old is this guy? They go, oh, he's 75. Like, holy cow.
He put some years.
Yeah. But it's an interesting story about Tosh, too. Tosh I got to know was not, I don't know what the relationship was, but he was over in Japan for a while, and then he got to know Suzuki, who ran Suzuki Corporation.
Okay.
And basically, the way I understand it is Tosh was asked to come run the racing program at the U.S.
Yeah, in the U.S., yeah.
And
he didn't really want to come here. He
was born and raised in California.
Oh, he was? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and then during the war, I guess he went back to Japan afterwards. But yeah, going on to that with Tosh, I didn't realize how close he was to Suzuki until we're in Reno for a dealer show.
Okay.
And the Japanese entourage from Japan shows up with Suzuki, and back then we were behind the scenes type of thing, and I was peeking through like the big curtains that are back there, kind of peeking at and looking at these guys all in a row as Suzuki's walking in. And funny as it is, he walked straight to Tosh first and greeted him. So I was like going, he must know something.
He's got some horsepower.
Yeah.
And that Suzuki, he was direct line of...
Well, not
Suzuki.
really.
Okay.
He married into it. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. As you know, the Japanese culture, I forget, I don't recall what his name was, but he ended up taking on the Suzuki name.
Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, you just to keep that lineage going, right? They're a little different than we are that way. Huh. Very interesting. Okay, so take me through that season with Danny. How'd that go?
It actually went pretty good. Obviously, we tied for the championship.
That was the crazy 125 outdoor championship year. Let Brock by and the whole thing.
Yeah.
Talk about a wild first major championship to be involved with.
Yeah.
You know, you're coming on the scene, new mechanic under a factory rig, and you got that battle, three-way battle to the end, huh?
Yeah.
What stands out from that season? Anything from that series?
Oh, there's a few things that stand out. We ended up winning the first race going in, right, at Hangtown. And then basically we just kind of hung on to the lead all the way through up until the last event, which was, we kind of messed up on that. a little bit because the 125 GP was before then. And so they left the GP bikes with us. And then we ended up riding those bikes at the end, at the last race. You probably should have stayed with what we had.
Why? What was the reason? I mean, obviously they're having...
Oh, they were full-on works bikes. We were riding basically a works engine with a production frame.
Okay. So you guys tested it?
Or, excuse me, I believe it was the other way around.
Oh, you guys had work stuff here.
Yeah, well, we had a works frame and a production engine.
Okay. So he rode it prior to that and liked it, though? Or what was the reason?
Yeah, he liked it, and we thought we'd have a better chance going up against the Yamaha guys.
Okay.
Which was Hannah and Glover. Back
yeah.
then.
So what was your take on that last round? And how much pressure were you feeling? I always wonder, these mechanics, even as a racer, I would be like, man, my mechanic's got to be stressed out. Like, I could die out there if there's something he does, he does something wrong. Like, there's a lot of pressure for you guys.
Yeah.
And now you got a championship stacked on top of that.
Yeah. I remember it was kind of a blur, actually.
Yeah.
What I remember the most is how bad that place stunk. We were at Austin,
Texas, yeah.
No, it was San Antonio back.
Rio Bravo, right?
No. It was a new track back then.
Oh, okay.
Right next to
like a dump or something?
Yeah, well, sewage.
Oh.
A sewer plant. Yeah, it was not too good a smell.
All right.
And so, it was hot. It was miserably hot back then. It's August. Just
South Texas in August.
Yeah. And that's what I remember most is how bad it stunk. And then just going on from there, Danny ended up crashing and then coming back through the pack. He ended up, I think, fourth. But it was one of those where it was like Hannah was leading, and that was the final race, right?
Yeah.
And that's when he got the let Brock by thing.
Yeah, so I think most people know this story. McCarty gives Hannah a pit board that says let Brock by. If Brock is in second, if they finish that way, Danny wins the title.
Yes.
Hannah begrudgingly lets him go. Glover gets the title. The stories about after the race are pretty legendary. Hannah rides off into the woods in tears, literally doesn't come back for hours. And we asked Bob about that, and he confirmed it. Glover's obviously pumped, but I don't think anyone really wants to win that way.
Yeah.
The check still cashes.
Yeah.
And Danny, of course, when I asked him about it, oh, well, it happened.
Yeah, he was very nice a lot.
Yeah. Like, it's no big deal, like just some local race. I said, man, it's got to sting a little. I mean, how was it from your perspective?
I wasn't like Danny so much, but I really was like, oh, we ended up losing. Oh, well, it's one of those things.
Yeah.
Hide was really upset, and he wanted me to go protest it because back then you're not allowed to have team racing. That was in the rule book.
I was going to ask about that. How did they, what was the pit and community feel in the industry about that? Because that was sort of the first well publicized, because someone got a picture of the pit board,
right?
Team orders, team tactics type of thing.
Yeah. Well, obviously the picture showed up afterwards, later.
Yeah.
But the AMA didn't want to do anything about it, so it ended up the way it was.
What do you think that was the right move or not?
It's the AMA.
We'll just leave it at that.
Yep.
So tell me about this. I kind of have written on here. I want to hear about Works Parts and Works Bikes. That was such a cool era and something that'll likely we'll never see again. What do you remember of Works Bikes and Works Parts and things that came across the pond to you guys where you were just blown away? Like, I remember, I don't even know if I was on big bikes yet or maybe just, and they sent those titanium cone pipes for like Swink and maybe Larry Ward. I can't remember, maybe Guy Cooper. Yeah. Do you remember those? And they were I mean, it weighed as much as a pen. It was incredible.
Yeah.
And then the first rock that hit him, it just crushed flat. But beautiful stuff.
Yeah, those were really unbelievable.
Yes.
A guy by the name of Homa built those. I got to meet him when we went over to Japan a few times. A great fabricator.
The welds. I mean,
Yeah.
if you were into that, you would look at that thing and just go, wow.
Yeah.
An incredible craftsmanship.
And as you saw, I mean, how many cuts were in those pipes? It was
Probably took him a week. That was my
week. I would say a month. But I don't know how long it took him, but he was really proficient in what he did.
I remember Mike Hooker would say it took him 1 full day to build a 125 cone pipe. So that's why I was thinking a week maybe, if that guy, you know. Mitch has one. Do you know that? Down at Pro Circuit?
Yeah. I know somebody else that does too.
I'm sure. You know where all the parts and bodies are hidden. Yeah. So what stands out from those bikes and parts? Was there any year where you're just blown away with something?
81.
81?
Obviously.
Okay.
Those bikes were incredible, actually. Danny had already left, and I was working with Marty Smith back then. But just riding an 81 500 was a dream. The 250 was even better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were talking about the 500 or the 125?
No, the 500.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously the 125 too. Mark Barnett just killed everybody on that.
So yeah, you had the bomber on the 125. Who was riding the 250 and 500 for you?
Howerton.
That's right.
And then the 500 was Marty.
And how'd those seasons go? Were those guys pretty dominant on those bikes?
Yeah.
Yeah. Bomber was.
Yeah. Marty was retiring back then, so he rode good, but he didn't have the old fire that he had.
But he always liked the bike, huh?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I wanted to ask you about this because Suzuki has always been such a conundrum to me. You know, like as I came into the sport professionally, early 90s, mid 90s, Suzuki's 125 was amazing, especially the factory bike. Huffman, Swink, Decker was on it for a minute. You look at all of these guys who were winning on that bike. Lusk. It was awesome. I mean, it was as good or better than anything else out there. Maybe the peak bikes would have been right there in that window. But then the 250 seemed like it wasn't quite as good. It struggled to work as well. And you just see these waves of like Suzuki would put in a good effort on part of it, but not this. And then it would kind of waver. And it seemed like the support came and went. And so you being behind the scenes, you're seeing the budget come in. Was it, and we talked about this a little off camera, does it just come from Japan, whoever's leading the ship over there? If they're passionate about racing, the budget flows to racing. If they're not, it gets drawn back.
Oh, that's pretty much it. What you just said is, I came in as race team manager during the works period.
Okay.
That was in 82.
Okay.
And the budget back then shrank pretty good the next few years. Barnett was at that time was the highest paid athlete.
Oh, was he really?
Yeah. That was the first $1 million contract that I recall. And so it was that amount was carried on for almost 10 years, if I remember correctly. It was a deferred payment for Mark.
Oh yeah, over how many years?
Yeah, I believe it was almost 10 years. So basically, that was part of the budget, was Mark's salary. So whatever else was
whatever was left,
yeah, we got back then. So until Roger showed up, the budget was pretty small. We were kind of,
and that just came from Japan, like
yeah,
okay,
yeah. They ended up hiring Roger, and then the budget ended up increasing.
And Pat, when you would, I imagine you were going and asking for more money. Hey, we need more help here and there. I would suppose any good team manager is probably doing that, right?
Yeah.
How was it with Suzuki versus, I'm sure you were talking to other team managers like Honda. Honda in the 80s went
it was unbelievable,
right?
Yeah.
Were you going like, hey guys, if you want me to compete with this, like I can't do it on this
every day of the week.
Okay. That was your nightmare. Because I've had those, like Dave Arnold come on and he said there basically wasn't a budget. Whatever you guys want, whatever you need, whatever it takes, go get it. Here's a credit card, make it happen.
Yeah. No, not for us.
That wasn't Suzuki's way.
No.
So you had some frustrating times during that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you got to remember, I was there 43 years. And it wasn't work. I mean, people go to work every day. I was going to have fun, basically, with all the people that I ran into. It was never a job, really. Yeah, in the office, probably. Some of the frustrations that you run into and stuff like that, but that's all part of the job anyways.
Yeah.
But it was more fun than it was a job.
Yeah, I believe that. I mean, it wasn't like you were working some grinding job where it was just monotonous. It was, you had all kinds of things happening and in an industry.
Every day of the week.
So what you would say that 250 was maybe the coolest works bike in 82?
Yeah, I'd have to say the 81 bike was
81.
Was pretty unbelievable. It was way lighter than any of the other bikes that were out there. In fact, and basically the AMA changed the rules on us for 82, and we had to run a heavier bike.
Are you kidding?
No, they like us so much.
Sounds like it. All right, so 82, you became team manager, or 81?
82.
82. And tell me about that transition to that job.
Kind of like running into my first mechanic's job, It's kind of
right into the deep end?
Yeah, right in the deep end, and just kind of working through it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say he was a mentor, but a friend of mine, Mark Blackwell, was probably a good inspiration for me. He was in charge of the race team for a while.
Okay.
He ended up leaving, going off to other things.
Yep. Mark was on the show earlier this year. Incredible guy.
Yeah.
An incredible businessman too.
Oh.
Probably learned a lot from him, I would imagine. When I managed Troy's team for a couple of years, 08 and 09, or 9 and 10, I loved going to the track with the guys. I loved being at the races with the guys, even in the shop, working with the mechanics. It's just such a fun team vibe. I imagine you had the same experience. I hated the desk stuff, writing contracts, dealing with the budget, just all the office stuff. I hated it. Was that a struggle for you ever? Or?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you come from our realm, working on motorcycles, riding motorcycles and stuff like that, and then sitting at a desk, you're like going, okay, this is kind of different. I'm not sure if I like this.
Yeah. Well, you have people talk about spending their life in a cubicle.
Yeah.
And for me, it was just a glimpse at that life, and I went, whew, not for me.
Yeah.
Fluorescent light and,
Well, I spent my fair time on a chair.
Yeah.
It, funny as it is, going from a mechanic to sitting in a chair, I gained 15 pounds in like six months because I wasn't on the road. I wasn't, working out as much as I used to and stuff like that. It was,
you fall into that sedentary lifestyle. You just punch in at 8, tapping away on the keyboard all day. I mean,
but then you go out to the racetrack and you test, and you kind of want to forget about the time at the desk.
Yeah. What? Tell me one of the other things I want to ask you here. From 78 to 81, who did you work for outside of Danny? Because I couldn't remember.
No, I was Danny's mechanic.
The whole
4
time?
years.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I thought maybe there was a couple other guys.
Yeah. No, we ended up tying the 77 championship.
Yep.
And then Danny was riding the 250 as well back then, Supercross and stuff. Then in 78 was a tough year for us. That's the long travel bikes. I don't know if you recall any of that.
Just hearing about it. Yeah.
Those things were incredibly tall.
I remember.
Yeah. And I couldn't find the picture. There's a picture of me with just my arms on the seat. And all you can see is like from my arms and my head, basically. That's how tall the bike was. It was pretty incredible.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
I never remember the Makos being really tall. It was probably in that era as well.
Yep.
And you'd ride. I didn't ride the Suzuki, but I remember riding Makos. Somebody that had redone one, and they worked incredible in like the little bumps and stuff, but weird in the turns because you're 6 feet off the ground. Trying to get the thing to lean, and it had its perks, but it was a weird learning curve or time in the sport.
On a sand track, they were unbelievable. But the thing is because of the shocks and the forks back then, the control wasn't there.
Just mushy feeling, and
you go off a jump and sometimes it was, coming down,
right.
Other jumps you're going off with the front end up. It was hard to control.
Yeah.
The damn thing nearly killed me a couple of times when I was riding it.
Really?
Yeah.
Just not doing what you expected it to do.
Exactly. And basically, I wasn't racing it, so it was interesting for Danny, I'm sure.
What stands out during those years?
79.
79?
Winning that championship. We won the 500 championship.
Take me through that. Who was he racing against in 79?
Mike Bell.
Ah, okay. Two of the nicest damn guys battling it out.
Yeah.
Any races that stand out for you, or?
Nah, not really.
Okay.
It was, I take it back. Southwick.
Okay.
He ended up falling in the first turn. I think both motos. Ended up winning both motos.
You're kidding me.
No.
Danny was a sand guy because he grew up in Yucca Valley.
Yeah.
So there's some sand out there.
Yeah.
How did that feel, winning that championship?
Felt good. That was a hard fought event.
But you as a mechanic, you guys are almost as it almost feels as good to you guys, right? I mean, you guys put in hours on the road and hours building those bikes, and you're as invested as they are a lot of times.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And back then it was box fans, so I had my own box fan, and I know a lot of people say that they miss those days, and I absolutely did.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot of fun. We used to go to different places. Like I had a girlfriend down in Texas that I used to visit and work on the bike down there, and up in Michigan. Had friends up in Chicago that I used to go in their shop and work on the bikes, and you kind of had your own realm, basically.
Yeah. The first couple of years I raced, I was, Suzuki Sport. You were the guy gave me bikes, and I was in a box fan, and those were some of the best memories of racing for me. Randy Lawrence and I just staying at friends' house, finding different places to ride, places to eat. Just hop out of the van and go for a run. You were just you were part of a team, but on your own also.
Mm-hmm.
And that freedom, the minute everybody went into a transporter, was gone.
Yeah, that's the professionalism that we ran into later down the road.
Yeah, good and bad. It looked cool, but it again, a little piece of our soul gone.
Yeah, especially for the mechanics. They weren't flying in and out. I don't know how many of them did go through the box fan times, if they did as as they were coming out.
Yeah, probably not anymore.
Yeah,
I would say those guys are probably mostly gone.
Yeah.
And I want to get your opinion on this too, because it seems like in your day, in the box van days, you had, as a mechanic, you had to do everything. You didn't have, you were driving, shopping, cleaning the rig, setting up. Then on the bike, you were splitting cases, you were changing tires, all of it. It was all you. Where today, guys, they fly in, the engine guy sends the motor back with them, the suspension's already handled, and you just bolt it on. I don't want to call them parts changers. That's very disrespectful, but it's definitely not all of the things it was back then.
Well, I kind of laugh, when some of them used to complain, about what they had to do. And it's like, yeah, okay, what, you don't want to say back in the day, but back in the day,
well, it's true.
Yeah.
I mean, the bikes were simpler, obviously being two strokes on
absolutely.
But they have an electronics guy who plugs in, and
yeah,
there you go, you're all set. I mean,
yeah, and as works bikes were back then, they were still rudimentary compared to what these guys are dealing with now. The suspension's so much more sophisticated than it was. The engines are water cooled and 4-stroke, and all that. The ignition systems are quite a bit better. Just the evolution of the motorcycle.
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Did you guys get into any trouble on the road back then? That you can share?
Obviously, yes.
That was part of the fun.
Yeah, but like you said, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Mainly tickets.
Yeah. Any rental car stories?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why we laugh about it, but that's why the renting car now, you have to be over 25. There's a reason for that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I remember you always get the insurance back then.
Yep.
Okay, what about, I want to ask about this. This was something I brought up with Ron when I asked how he got the name Slicer and, all the nicknames back then.
Yeah.
And it was from the CB radio traffic. Like, everyone had to have a nickname, like a handle. Did you have one?
Not really.
Really? Okay.
A lot of my internal people used to call me the Elf. That's mechanic.
It's not super creative, but okay. I take a little bit of offense since we're about the same height, but all right. All right, so you go through this time with Danny. How does that transition into the team manager job? And who was before you?
Before me was basically Mark Blackwell.
Oh, it was Blackwell. That's right. Okay.
And then a fellow by the name of Larry Griffiths.
Oh, Larry Griffiths. I remember that name. Okay.
Yeah, Larry. What race were we at back then? I think it was near the end. Unadilla, I think, was the event, and Larry was a great guy, and we used to kid around back and forth. And he goes, "Hey, I'm probably going to leave in the next year. I think you'd be a good manager for the team once I leave." I go, "What are you talking about? One of those." And he ended up going to Yamaha after that.
Yeah.
And
that's where I remember the name from.
Yeah, and they called me in the office and they said, "Well, we'd like you to be the race team manager." Go, okay.
So it caught you off guard.
Oh, completely.
Completely off guard. But you don't say no to that opportunity, right?
No. In hindsight, probably would have loved being a mechanic a little bit longer. Maybe learning a little bit more as a racing manager.
Mm-hmm. That's not always how it works, though, right?
Nope.
Like when opportunity knocks, you got to open the door.
You go into the deep end.
How was that transition in? And who helped you? Well, you said Mark helped you quite a bit. Did he kind of onboard you a bit there?
Mark was gone by then, so basically I was on my own. But Larry kind of helped me along a little bit
Okay.
down the road. But being at the races and around those guys, it wasn't that difficult at the track. It was more in the office.
Yeah.
That I didn't know.
So I had issues with like learning Excel spreadsheets. For me, that was the struggle. Oh, I'll punch this number in, then everything changes. I'm like, I don't know what I did.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
But back then, it was probably all written, right? Or typed?
It was written out.
Yeah.
Most everything. Our budget sheets were a piece of paper I'd say about 17 inches wide and about 14 inches tall with a bunch of lines. And you put down what events and how much it costs, each month, basically.
Okay.
Come up with a number, right?
Yeah.
And the funny part was one time we used to have to make a booklet basically of what we did last year and what we're going into and who's, what riders we're looking at and what's going on. So I used to make these booklets and along with a budget sheet. And one year I was like, because back then it was Mr. Shigenoya was running things, and Tosh would go, oh, take it to Shigenoya, basically. So he'd open it up, look down at it, sign off, and go, here, kid. And I got so mad about that because I put in all this work.
Oh.
And one year I go, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to build a little pamphlet with a budget sheet and hand it off to him, right? He opens it up and he goes, this is shit. Redo it.
So he wanted you to put the work in.
Yes. Yeah. He actually did teach me a lot.
Okay.
He is a good guy.
This is it. Redo it.
He's tough. He was tough.
But then you do it all, and he just flips to the last page, looks at the number, and there you go.
Yeah. Well, one time I showed up with a budget sheet. We were redoing the budget because he didn't like the number that we had. So I set up this budget sheet, and then I plugged in these numbers for the box vans, and I kind of elevated the number a bit because you got to remember back then the box fans were getting older sometimes, and I knew they were going to...
You got a budget for some repairs.
Yeah, exactly. So I added in budget for repairs and whatnot, and he looked at this sheet, and I told you, it was a big sheet, and it was full of numbers. And he literally goes, this number's wrong. And it was like, how could you find that? It was,
wow.
He was pretty good with numbers.
This was Shigenoya?
Yeah. It was pretty unbelievable, actually.
He could just glance at it and go, nope, that's like Rain Man stuff. Wow. So take me through those years as team manager. What riders did you have? How were those seasons? Kind of all that.
Well, obviously I had Barnett.
Yeah.
I inherited Barnett, basically.
And you were team manager for how long?
82 to about 89. Okay. But back then it was kind of, like I told you, we were building up the amateur program about 1987. So I was doing the race manager, doing the amateur stuff. And then again, Shigenoya, we were in a meeting, and he goes, because I'd been basically asking him, we need an amateur program, very much like what Kawasaki was doing, Team Green back then. Said, we really need to look at that. And one day, and I'd been peppering him for a few years, basically. And he goes, okay, you do it. I said, no, I'll find somebody in, I'll continue as a racing manager. No, you do. It's like,
you're like, oh no, what have I
go? Yeah. It's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And so basically that's when
That's when Buzzard came in.
no,
Oh,
that's when Ron Heben came in.
oh, that's right.
Yeah,
Okay,
he was there a short time.
that's right.
They brought Ron Heben in, and I moved over to, and that was, for me, that was a really hard part because they didn't want people talking to each other almost. So I was in sports promotion then. Okay, you had your racing department, and then you had sports promotion. Well, sports promotion was this advertising side of it, basically.
Okay.
And so we were kind of banished from the racing department. You know,
That's interesting.
I kind of went in there. Yet I knew what was going on, obviously, but that was kind of hard.
Almost feel like you're getting kicked off the team.
Exactly.
Go play for another team.
Exactly.
You're not welcome in the locker room anymore.
Yeah.
Is Suzuki similar to other, like I know at some of these other manufacturers, they move you around intentionally. I mean, they may pull you out of motorcycles and put you in cars or put you into marine, or so that, I guess, to keep you fresh and new ideas and get you learning more about the brand. Does Suzuki do the same kind of thing?
Not really.
Not really? Okay.
No, there was a few people that moved around, but not.
If you wanted to stay here, you could.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah. Hide Suzuki was a good example. Being one of the Japanese, he was coming from the factory, basically. He came over to run the racing program for motocross.
Mm-hmm.
And he stayed.
He was there a long time, wasn't he?
Yeah. Yeah. He was asked to go back, and he declined, and so he basically became the race manager, and he wasn't moving up, and he wasn't. He was kind of pigeonholed into that position. But I think that's
what he wanted.
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay. So take me through some of those riders you had from 82 to 89. Like I saw George Holland, some of those photos you sent me. Those were great. Who else would Larry Ward.
Yeah, Eric Kehoe. One of the hardest decisions I made back then, it wasn't my decision, it was a group decision always, was do we keep Kehoe or do we keep Holland? Again, budget intervened, and we ended up staying with Eric Kehoe, and George went to Honda and ended up winning the championship.
And those two, if I remember right, they went all the way back to mini bikes.
Oh, yeah.
Suzuki, right? I mean, they were...
No, Eric was a Yamaha rider.
Oh, he was?
Came over.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought I remember him on Suzuki's. Who were the Suzuki mini bike kids then back then?
Oh, there was quite a few. Guy by the name of Pengri, you know.
Well, I'm talking pre-me. Larry Brooks, wasn't he a Suzuki kid?
Brooks was. I came in after Brooks, basically. Well, no. Brooks was part of the group, but he was part of the R&D.
Okay, so that was there. I wanted to ask you about that too. Oh, Mike Healy? He was a Suzuki kid too?
Yeah.
How did R&D play into this? This is a core memory for me. When I moved to Arizona from Montana as a young kid, one of the first amateur nationals I went to was the World Mini out at Henderson. Remember that old godforsaken place? And Dean Dickinson's out, got his little white jumper on.
Yep.
And he's jetting the bike. He'd put it up on a stand and just put it in second or third gear, hold it wide open, and he would kind of bounce up and down on the rear brake pedal to load the motor.
Yep.
And he could jet it by doing that rather than have the guy ride it. But the thing would just be screaming through the whole pits. Everyone's looking over like, whoa, what's going on? And the rotor's glowing hot when he's done. And it was a scene, you know. But those bikes were incredible. And gosh, I'm brain farting now. There was somebody we just had on who said they used an R&D motor at like Washougal, and it ended up being better than what they had. It was Burnworth.
Yeah.
So I know that there was R&D helped a lot, specifically with Suzuki, specifically with the younger program, but they were integrated in a lot of what you guys were doing with racing.
Oh, yeah. back then they were the mini bike team for us, basically. And that's kind of why I tried to do the amateur program, because Rudy, which is Dean's dad, and Dean, they had their guys that they would pick out, and it was only like 2 or 3 guys at the most. And I was seeing what Kawasaki was doing. They had a whole regiment of guys.
Yeah.
You know, so I was trying to emulate what Kawasaki was doing with Suzuki, and that kind of, I shouldn't say it got into a problem for R&D, but it ended up that R&D kind of went away from Suzuki not soon after that. But it was more so that we were trying to push R&D into more of an overall, you know, hire a bunch of kids and we'll give you mini bikes, and, you know, you go on their way. But they wanted to specialize, and you know, they did a great job at specializing the guys that they brought up.
Yeah, Budman. I'm trying to think who else they had, but
it goes on at Gaddis.
Gaddis. And their bikes were incredible.
Yeah.
Those guys did a great job. Even Bruce Bunch, Rick Hemme, Kyle Fleming, were they all 3 Suzuki kids?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was...
Were you involved in them, with them?
That was still R&D back then.
Okay.
I was going in between the race team and doing the amateur stuff, and I wasn't at Ponca there at that time, but Tosh was there. And, you know, I got to say, I felt that it damn near killed him.
Tosh?
Yeah, because you knew him as a little kid. He always liked talking to the little kids.
Yeah.
And, you know, palling around with them. He really did.
He had a lot of personality that way and enjoyed it. Yeah.
He really enjoyed it. And seeing those guys passing away at Ponca City, he never went back. That was the last. Yeah, that was the last race he went to. He went to the pro races with us every once in a while, but he never went back to an amateur.
I didn't know it impacted him so much.
Yeah.
Robert Naughton, you remember Fig?
Oh, yeah.
He's built 3 replica bikes. He found these old mini bikes hammered and completely restored them with all those guys' numbers, because he was good friends with Kyle Fleming.
Yeah.
And Kyle's mom sent him a helmet and a letter and all this stuff. It's pretty wild. He's getting ready. They're almost finished. I'll have to send you the photo.
There's a funny story about that too.
Is there?
Oh yeah. I wouldn't say it's funny. It's back then, Mr. Shigenoi again takes me in a room. He goes, I want to have 10 East Coast, 10 West Coast riders. You know, for back then it was the beginning of the 125 Supercross. I go, because I had offered.
You go, that's a lot.
Exactly. I offered up like 5 East to 5 West. Oh, I want 10 each coast. I go, are you sure? Because again, in the back of my mind, I'm going, how much is this going to cost? Because we don't have the budgets
that's
to afford that.
No.
And he goes, you do. I said, okay. So I went out and hired a bunch of kids. One of them was Robert Naughton. And I getting the contracts ready and sending them out, get called in the office. Change.
5 only.
Exactly. I'm going, are you kidding me? I go, I just sent these contracts out to these kids. You can't do that. You must. So I started, I said, look, I can't do this. He goes, you must. I said, okay, but I don't know how many I can pull back.
Oh, wow.
But I'll try. Robert was one of them. And he was very, very good about it. And he ended up going to school after that. And, I would like to hope that I convinced him to go to school rather than have a racing career. But I always pushed my amateurs that they had had to stay in school.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. And the Good Scholar program,
Yeah.
I took advantage of that.
Yeah.
I finished high school. I mean, I remember you had a lot of influence, your little conversations with my dad.
Yeah.
That
I loved your dad.
Yeah.
He was a great guy.
Great. Yeah. Well, and Robert went on to become a nurse and has a great career, works in Flagstaff still.
Yeah.
But he was second in the championship the year, I guess it would have been the year before.
Yep.
You guys made him an offer. Interesting. So when you look back at your time as team manager and then some of the amateur stuff you did you enjoy the pro stuff more or both equally, or how would you kind of compare the two?
At first, I begrudgingly was doing the amateur program, but then not soon after that, I really got to enjoy it. Bringing the kids up and stuff like that. That was the fun part of racing for me, is seeing the amateurs come up.
I imagine it feels like, maybe a demotion, like, oh, I was at this high level, now I'm going down here. But once you've done the pro racing thing, it definitely over time loses it becomes a little bit of a circus.
Yeah.
This is my experience. And I'm just curious how you felt the amateur stuff was, because as a kid and I mentioned this to you when you walked in, the first ride I got was from Suzuki, end of the 1990 season. And I got a letter from you. This is pre-email, and then we're both getting old. Just, hey, congratulations. And I think it might have just been 2 bikes and parts. Like, it wasn't some big contract, but it's like a core memory I have. One of the best days of my life as a kid. So I imagine you impacted a lot of people's lives. Just a simple letter, hey, we're going to give you a couple bikes and parts. Welcome to Team Suzuki, Man, it's like, like I said, I'll never forget it.
Well, that's all part of my life, basically, is I tried to help out as many as I could.
Yeah.
Had to make some hard decisions sometimes, but yeah, you try and see these guys flourish if you can.
And so I guess that's my point. Is there more joy in that, like finding some kid and watching him take off, or working with these pro guys who are already there and you're just sort of giving them the tools to do their job?
That's a hard one because they're both rewarding.
Yeah.
Seeing guys like Pastrana,
yeah,
making it the way he is now is unbelievable.
Yeah,
I would have never guessed. Crazy as he is,
he had to take some years off your life, huh?
Absolutely. There's some great stories, but I remember when he was riding mini bikes for me. He calls me up and he goes, guess what I just did? I go,
you don't want to hear him say that. What?
Yeah, basically. What, Travis? What did you do this time? He goes, I jumped 205 feet on my 125. I go, are you out of your mind? I go, do you have any idea what could happen if you landed that bike wrong? Oh, but it was so much fun. And it's like, I'm thinking, you could have ended up in the hospital, kid, but that was the things that Travis loved to do.
He's a special one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if there'll ever be another one of him.
Yeah.
What were some of the other amateur kids that you remember, the things that stand out working with?
Oh, I don't know.
What year did you take over amateur stuff?
About 87, right around that time. I had guys like Greg Rand. Yeah.
Who else? Eric McClear, was he a guy that you helped, or was he Yamaha?
I think he was Yamaha.
Okay.
I mean, there was so many, it's kind of hard. It kind of runs together.
Yeah.
But I remember DeMint and Rand very well.
And Lusk. And didn't you get DeMint and Lusk? Because they both got fired from Cowie. They got in a fight, and Cowie said, you guys do it again, you're fired.
Yep.
And they did, and they both got fired.
Yeah. And they did it again at Suzuki.
Did they?
Oh, yeah. We had to separate them. It was
All right, I'm going to take you back just a story that stands out for me, because Dement was on the team when I was there. He was kind of he would have been the head guy, right? Like he was winning everything at the time on an 80. Jeff was really fast.
Yeah.
And very headstrong. This is my recollection of it as a kid. And very confident, maybe cocky-ish. And I was always racing against Craig Decker and Damon Huffman. Those were the Cowie's two fair-haired boys, right?
Yeah.
And so I was remember I was at Lake Whitney, 90, would have been 92, 91. And I'm like, man, these guys they're just a little bit better than me. I was trying to kind of pump Jeff for some information, or how can I do it? And so he was constantly helping me. He was always really good about giving me tips and, whatever. And we went to Ponca City that year, and Decker kept beating me out of the gate. And by the time I get to second, he's gone and he's winning. And so Jeff goes, all right, here's what you do. Line up right next to him. And as soon as the gate drops, you just cut over. He goes, start in first gear. So you just jump and you just move over and block his line. There's nothing he can do. He's got to shut off. You'll beat him. Like, okay, all right, I'll do it. Do you remember this? So I'm not used to doing this. Isn't something you practice, right? So I jump out of the gate and just veer right. Well, it clips Craig's front wheel. He goes down. I win the title. And Will Decker is pissed, and probably rightfully so. Do you remember this? And he came marching into the Suzuki pits, and we had like Dostal and Dement and myself and Metzger, all the Suzuki kids. And it was like almost a brawl in the pits.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember it that clearly, but I remember Jerry Dostal. He would have been right in the middle of it, I'm sure.
Yeah, Big Jerry was right there. Anyway, I'm sure you had 1,000 experiences like this with different meanings.
Oh, we had so much fun with those guys.
Yeah.
There's a story about Dostal and Pastrana, the two men.
Oh boy, those two.
No, they when they'd meet each other in the pits, they would call each other names and then grab each other and hug each other, and it was just, you didn't know if they were going to fight or if they're
they're just very big personalities.
Yeah,
both of them.
Yeah. One time we were at it was the RM Cup, and I brought those guys in, and I remember we were just finishing up, and back then we were cleaning up after that, because Suzuki was putting on the event. So we'd help the promoter clean up, and then we had our own pit area that we cleaned up.
This is in Missouri at that one? Was it
could have been
Washougal for a while? I remember.
No. We never went to.
I never went to Washougal?
No,
I thought it did.
We always chose places that were brand new.
Oh, okay.
Or close to brand new. So we'd try to help the promoter.
Gotcha.
Promote his event and bring it up.
Okay.
We went all over the place. We went to Coop's place. Actually, we went there twice. We went up to Cernig's Pleasure Valley. Just so happens we were in Missouri for that event too, and it was at Branson.
Branson, that's right.
Yeah, and I think it was at Branson where we had a big old trough, like a cattle trough.
Okay.
Full of drinks and, ice. And we're cleaning up afterwards, right? And old man Pastrana he goes, here, hold this. And he hands me his wallet. And I'm like, I'm dumbfounded. I'm like going, okay, what? He literally sprinted past me, and Dostal was right next to the drink thing and just grabbed him and threw him in. They both went into this trough.
Okay.
And I thought they both were going to have a heart attack because they both jumped up and were going, ice water. Yeah, ice water. So, that's just some of the stuff that these guys used to, pranks that did.
I'm thinking of like the Izzy family, and I'm trying to think of all these kids, but
Bogart.
Charlie Bogart, he was fast too on a mini bike. There was a lot of personality. Did you ever have any stories of parents where you're just like, this guy?
Rand.
Really? Oh, I didn't know. Okay. I remember Greg. I don't remember the folks.
Yeah. Old Man Ran was,
Handful.
yeah, it was pretty tough.
That would be the one thing about amateur racing that would be a struggle. Yeah, sometimes. Not all the parents, but you definitely get some.
We were at, I used to get the parents together with the riders. It was at Thanksgiving one time at Minio's, right? We're down there. And I got these guys together, and I said, to me, the best thing that you guys can do for me is let me take care of the kids, and we'll build a cage out by the front and put all the parents in, and then I'll let you guys out after the races are over when the kids are all having fun.
Yeah.
I go, that for me is the ultimate fun.
Well, was there a challenge too, you know, and maybe I feel like it's gotten worse with parents where back then, yeah, maybe you wanted to become a pro, but you were just enjoying racing and you wanted to do the best you could. Now it seems like these parents are going, okay, Johnny's 10. Let's pull him out of school. We're going to go live at this camp and he's going to make it, you know. Do you feel like that's gotten worse? And I always tell people, look, just enjoy spending time with your kid.
I think
if he makes it, great. Put your best foot forward, but don't bank on this as a career. It's suicide.
Yeah.
It's like going to Vegas and doing one hand of roulette.
Yeah, I used to call it the 1% rule.
Yeah.
You know, and he's probably even less than that.
Probably less than that.
But if you look at professional sports like football, baseball, stuff like that. You do Pop Warner football or you do Little League baseball, right? And there's how many around the country? You graduate to high school, right? And some of you make it through high school, but how many high schools are around the United States? Then you go to college and you play college baseball or football. And how many guys make it through that? And then you go to the pros. There's how many teams now? 16 teams, I think, in football, and there's a few more than that. Mm-hmm. So it's the same percentage rule all the way down the board.
But here's the key difference is that in those stick and ball sports, to play high school, you have to have a 3.0 GPA or whatever it is, 2.5 maybe, right? Doesn't have to be great. But there's you've got to be going to school.
Yes.
And then you go to college. And even if you take stupid classes, you're at least growing as a human being and interacting and socializing, right? Then you have your shot at being a professional once you're into your 20s.
Yep.
We pull kids out of school in 8th, 9th grade and go, all right, we're doing it. That is no good to me. I just think, man, give yourself at least a chance. Go through high school, right? Like, and I'm not saying homeschool is bad. I'm saying no school is bad.
Yes.
Right. Like if you take your homeschooling seriously, those kids produce better SAT scores than regular high school kids. But it's the ones where they do homeschool for about 6 months and then, you know.
I absolutely agree. I always tried to push my guys into staying in school. Brock Hepler, good example.
Yeah, great example.
Always tried to push those people into that. In fact, Hepler's a good example of do I play soccer or do I race motorcycles? Because he was pretty good at it as a soccer player.
Oh, I didn't know that.
As a little kid, right? Because the parents were telling me they weren't sure. And I go, hey, you know, motorcycling's good. It's a good sport. I go, but, you know, if soccer's what you guys want to do, then, you know, that's your prerogative.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. R.J. Hampshire was a baseball player and had to make that same choice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you knew that.
No, I didn't.
Yeah. Do you think Brock regrets his decision if he could go back?
Oh, I don't know.
Yeah.
He got hurt pretty bad, but
he also did some pretty great things and he was a good rider.
Yeah.
All right, I'll tell you what, let's take a little break here. We've got a lot more coming. I want to finish up with you here, but this is your Troy Lee Designs timeout, you guys. Stick around. We'll be right back here to finish up with Pat Alexander.
There's a new product on the market that's going to help you with your riding and racing, and it's Elevate Action Sports. If you've not yet gone and checked it out at elevateactionsports.com, it's a collective of riding coaches, the likes of which has never been put together. Grant Langston, Ryan Hughes, Jeff Emick, Johnny Campbell, and myself, David Pingree, bringing all of our years of experience in professional racing to one place with professionally produced videos and all kinds of supporting staff to help you with your mental side of racing, your physical side, your bike setup, your bike maintenance. We cover it all. Get to Elevate Action Sports right now and join the community.
Dunlop. There is a reason every AMA championship in the past decade was won on Dunlop tires. They are the best. Choose the best performing tire and a brand that has never wavered in their support of our sport. Choose Dunlop. Pro Circuit. Pro Circuit products are designed with one goal in mind: winning. Through passion and hard work, Pro Circuit has operated the most successful 250 team in the history of the sport. They use that same formula when developing exhaust, engine, and suspension parts for every brand. When only the highest level of performance is acceptable, trust Pro Circuit.
Since 2009, Seat Concepts has been dedicated to making the best aftermarket seats. More comfort, more grip, more riding. For 10 years, we've continued to raise the bar. Innovation and American craftsmanship make Seat Concepts the world-leading manufacturer of power sports seats.
Something from nothing. That's what Nihilo Concepts is about. It starts with a spark, an idea, a concept, which leads to a design, and finishes with engineered excellence with the highest quality products created with durability in mind. All our products are made in the USA at our state-of-the-art facility in Stuart, Florida. Whether you are a weekend warrior, ride for fun, or at the highest level of competition, Nihilo Concepts offers innovative titanium, aluminum, and carbon fiber parts for your dirt bike. We offer a wide variety of products that you can customize to your liking. Browse our site for foot pegs, brake tips, engine components, specialty tools, frame grip tape, lever grips, carbon fiber components, motor stands, our secondary on-switch, plus much more. Head to NihiloConcepts.com and see for yourself why factory teams like Red Bull KTM, Rockstar Husqvarna, Troy Lee Designs Gas, Orange Brigade, Club MX, KLM Gas, and some of the fastest riders in the world choose Nihilo Concepts.
Specialized Bicycles. Specialized leads the way in the world of bicycling. Whether it's cross-country racing, downhill, e-bikes, enduro, road, gravel, dual slalom, dirt jumping, or all mountain bikes that do it all, Specialized has the perfect ride for you. The brand is synonymous with engineering excellence and innovation that steers the industry. Visit your local Specialized dealer for a test ride and see just how good Specialized products are.
Try to keep on keeping on.
With a rich history in motocross, ProX has been dedicated to supplying quality components since 1975. Whether you're rebuilding an engine or just need a new chain, ProX Racing Parts aims to bridge the gap between OE quality and affordability. ProX has over 9,000 part numbers and over 60 different product types that are manufactured by highly reputable or even OEM suppliers and are offered at affordable prices to help keep riders on the bike instead of in the garage. Visit ProX.com to search parts for your bike or check them out at your favorite online or local dealer.
Audio Jungle.
The guys are just breaking in their race bikes, which will leave on the semi this Saturday to go to the first Supercross for our coast in Orlando. So the guys are just be goofing off a little bit, do some cool photos, do some cool videos. When you go racing, you want to do well, but a big key is keeping the bikes on the track. That's why we chose to work with Motul.
Expectations coming in as a rookie is just to try and get my feet wet and honestly just send it, see where I end up and do my best out there. But just ride aggressive and ride like myself in practice, and I should have a good time.
Challenges of this sport, I believe, is just simply staying healthy. With how fast we're going and what we're doing, your margin for mistake is really, really small.
Stay Sick. If you have little rippers, then you have had to have seen Stay Sick bikes by now. We have created bike and experiences that allow kids to develop sooner and empower them to find their own ride. From learning to ride to sharpening skills, the Stay Sick promise is accelerated growth. Whatever path your family chooses, it's going to be the ride of your life. Stay Sick Stability Cycles.
I'm on vacation every single day because I love my occupation. I'm on vacation. If you don't like your life, then you should go and change it.
All right, guys, welcome back. That was your Troy Lee Designs timeout. If you guys haven't been over to TLD, to their website, troyleedesigns.com, go have a peek. All kinds of new summer gear out if you're looking for some vented stuff. It's hot. The paint department's open. They've got new mountain bike gear, all kinds of cool stuff. The SC5 helmets are really, really game-changing in terms of safety and comfort. So check those out. We are proud to have them part of the show. Pat, welcome back here. I wanted to ask you something else. This is another one of my amateur moments that stands out that I have a funny memory of you. 92 Loretta's. This was the only year that I won a title at Loretta's. I went twice. The first year I got a wood chip stuck in my car. I don't know if you remember that too. Jim Danforth about pulled his hair out trying to help me figure out what was wrong with my bike. But in 92, I was riding 125 intermediate, or B, and in the stock moto, I'm battling with this kid who was friends with Tim Ferry, and back and forth, and he's brake checking me, and it kind of was pissing me off, and I ended up, when I finally passed him, I moved over, and he crashed and broke his arm, and happened to be along the fence line there after turn 2, and so someone recorded the whole thing. And this is how I met Davey Coombs too, by the way. And so after the race, his family and friends are freaking out. Tim Ferry's screaming at me. Big Dave Coombs with Davey and Rita, and I think Tim Cotter, call us into the trailer, and you come with me. And they said, what happened out there? You know, we're hearing that you took a guy out. And I said, oh, no, our lines just came together. It was, just racing. And he says, okay. And he pops in a cassette tape. Do you remember this? Is this ringing any bells?
No, I don't recall.
Well, he pops in a tape of this video of me making a pass on this guy, and I look over at him, look over again, cut over into his line. He goes down, and I got docked like 5 positions for dirty riding or whatever the call was, but it cost me a championship in that class. So I won the modified class. I think it relegated me to like 3rd in the stock class. But before we went in, you're like, okay, tell me what happened. And I said, well, I mean, he was brake checking me. He was doing all this stuff. So I cut him off, Okay, all right. We should be okay, And anyway, we both kind of walked out of there with our tails between our legs. And that was my introduction to Davey Coombs.
Oh, my.
And then I'll tell you another while we're on the subject of stories where you're a part of my life. The 2000 Supercross Championship.
Yep.
Do you remember being at the Dallas round?
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, I led that whole series, was in a really good position to win it, had a crash and a broken front brake carrier in Minneapolis. So I went into the last round, handful of points down. We all go down in the first turn. It's just a melee. I come back to second, pull over the finish line, and I'm sitting there with you and my mechanic, and we're waiting to see where Bentley comes across.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you running back and forth to, I don't know where you were going. I think you got it. I think we got it. You're running around, and I'm like, all excited, and then they announce he wins it by 2. Yeah. And I kind of went blank after that, and I fell into depression.
Well, before then, if you recall, we had 2 guys that were sitting on both sides of Bentley's bike, 2 Suzuki guys at the start line.
Horton was one, I remember.
Yeah. They were placed there. Mitch was pretty pissed. But it wasn't, should I say, intentionally trying to block him or anything. I just wanted these guys to line up next to him and kind of getting nervous.
Yeah,
getting nervous.
We all went down, so there was no
team strategy. Mitch still thinks that we did that on purpose to try to take him out.
Oh, yeah.
You can't convince him otherwise. I'm like, Mitch, there was no team order or plan. It was just, we were racing. Of course, we're trying to get in his head. Of course. I needed a miracle.
Yeah. And I never intentionally tried to, tell my guys, oh, go take him out.
No.
I just told him, go line up next to him so we can get him kind of thinking about it.
Yeah, and hopefully beat him out of the gate and put him behind you,
Exactly.
How does that kind of stuff affect you? I mean, are you like, oh, well, dang it, and you're over it? Or is it ruined me for a year emotionally? But I know
it didn't ruin me for a year.
Damn it.
I was kind of upset a little bit for a short time, It's like, we let that one slip away.
Mm. But you've probably had multiple, that's not the only time you've had a championship either go your way or not go your way last minute. I mean, 77 we already talked about. You're kind of used to it probably.
I shouldn't say you're used to it, but it does happen.
Yeah.
And, you got to remember, over the years, I've been to how many events, and how many championships where, we've won championships and we've lost championships. The ones that you're not even close, it's like, oh, whatever.
Right.
But the ones that are really close, that kind of hurts. Now,
yeah. Well, that's what I mean is the ones that go down and you either it just goes your way or it just doesn't.
Yeah.
Those at least stick in your memory, don't they? That was like, I think we waited around for 5, 6, 7 minutes. It seemed like an eternity.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy crap, someone do the math, please. Like, figure this out. And then I wish they would have figured it out a different way. Okay, so you got a story about Alan King. I was flipping through some photos, and we'll put a picture up of it here. And I'm like, who is this tall guy in the middle? I couldn't identify him. And you saw it's Alan King. You said you had a good story with him.
Oh, yeah. He was a great guy. He really was. He was a lot of fun to be around. He was really good. But like Alan was, he didn't train that well.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we were at Washougal. I remember this like yesterday. And he was either leading the race or he was right up front.
Okay.
And I think it was Chuck's son at that time was right there.
Okay.
And it's the last lap of the race. And you know Washougal, how it is. If you're standing in a certain area, you don't see some of the stuff that the guys, they disappear basically. And all of a sudden, I think it was Chuck comes up. Oh, excuse me. Chuck comes up out of this jump. No Alan. I'm like, oh, what the heck? So I'm waiting and I'm waiting and I'm waiting. And finally nobody's coming around basically. And I jump the fence, go across to where I think he's at. Sure enough, he's got his hands on the handlebars with his head down. And I'm going, start the bike. He'd crashed.
Okay.
And I yelled at him, are you okay? He goes, I'm so tired. I can't start this bike. And I go, start it, just kick it. And he kind of does these half kicks on a 500. It's like, this is impossible. You're never going to start it like that. I go, are you done? Are you done? He goes, I can't do it. So I jump the fence, walk over, maybe the second kick, fired it up. And I go, here, get out of here.
Oh my gosh.
We get back to the truck and I grab him and we go around the corner and I go, and you saw how big he was. I'm standing there going, don't you ever do that to me again.
Yeah, he's twice as tall as you, brother.
But
he's always out of shape?
Pretty much.
Pretty much?
Yeah. But he was a good rider. And, just I felt if he trained more. But he was a big guy, too. So I don't know. It's kind of like Daryl Schultz was very similar. Schultz ended up getting hurting his knees quite a bit.
Yeah.
So, but he trained.
Yeah. Didn't he do, wasn't he part of Team Tam?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's what I remember him from, was those years. Okay, so in about 2000-ish, you went over to the road racing side. Am I right there? Okay. And how did that come to be? And did you fight that? I mean,
Well, back then, like I said, we were doing the amateur programs, so I kind of migrated all this stuff into road racing, and so I was kind of focusing more on road racing, trying to learn it more than anything.
Okay.
So I was involved in road racing a little bit more, and so back then I had a number of guys working under me that I've kind of moved them into the amateur motocross, which was Coalgrass,
yeah.
you know, some of those guys. And I was kind of parlaying it off to different people, but then I wanted to find out what was going on in road racing. So I was kind of staying in road racing a little bit more. And then we expanded even more. So I brought more people in, a guy by the name of Mike Webb. He was doing the off-road programs for me. Guy by the name of Morgan Broadhead was doing the road racing and the drag racing. And then I was taking up the dirt track and ATV programs back then. But I was going to all the events periodically. So I'd go to the first event of
everything,
all the event. Everything. And then from there, I would go to maybe the middle round, and then always to the end of the rounds. But I kind of stayed in the dirt track and the ATV side, kind of keep an eye on those guys and seeing how things were going with them. We almost won a dirt track championship for the twins. We ended up winning the singles championship with our heirs with Jake Johnson.
Yeah, Suzuki's had great spurts of time. I mean, in fact, when you stepped into road racing there, they were killing it. I mean, it was the premier program.
Yeah, the GSXR at that time was a premier bike.
Yeah.
A guy by the name of Matt Mladen, won quite a few. At the very beginning, when I came into road racing, there was a guy by the name of Jeff Wilson who was doing the amateur side he's kind of overseeing road racing for a guy by the name of Mr. Ito. And Jeff was helping with the amateur side of it for a very short time. Unfortunately, he ended up leaving. But he basically brought up Ben Spees. If you know that.
I know Ben very well. In fact, my producer goes, you got to ask him about Ben Spees' mom.
Mary?
She was a handful.
Oh, yeah. Mary was a handful. It was like one of the phone conversations that I had with her one time. I sent him a contract, and she goes, Pat, I'm trying to understand this contract and how it's, put together and this, that, and the other thing. I go, let me get this straight, Mary. You do real estate, and you're a realtor, and you don't know how a contract goes? So she was always, questioning everything that everybody did.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, he was a hell of a rider. It was a good dude, too. I like that.
Mary was great. I had a lot of fun with her, but she was a handful.
Yeah. I like I said, you've dealt with so many younger kids, and I'm sure their parents. You probably just used to it, dealing with crazy parents.
Yeah, well, you have the good and the bad, obviously, and everything. George Holland's dad, great guy.
Okay,
very quiet, behind the scenes. Seemed like.
Was he a farmer?
Oh yeah,
in agriculture. Okay.
Oh yeah.
I figured that for George to go into that almond farming, that must be a family business.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. You don't just get into almond farming in the middle of your life.
No. Well, George was doing the motocross stuff, and his dad had a Honda dealership.
Oh, okay.
Out there.
I want to get George on the show. Do you ever talk to him anymore?
It's been years. I saw him up at Oakland Supercross
Okay.
a few years back.
So he still pops his head.
Yeah. Talk to Pipes. Pipes is very good friends
Is that right?
with them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Noted. I will. Before we get into the road racing, you said you had done kind of brought in Suzuki's amateur racing stuff, trying to be like Team Green. And I remember those first, mid 80s amateur nationals I'd go to. The Team Green camp was like impressive.
Yes.
The big inflatable thumb, and it was like a village, and you just go, oh, wow. It definitely made you want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
And you did do a good job of developing a Suzuki amateur program, which was really good and successful. And then the contingency side of it. And this is something I remember that was hugely helpful to us trying to race and afford it. For that little window, early 90s, there was a lot of contingency money you could make.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't just Suzuki, but
yeah.
Why has that changed so much? Just economics? I mean, you could make a lot of money.
Yeah. For us, it started out with road racing. Road racing had a contingency program back then.
Okay.
And so I took that and emulated it into the motocross side, looking at what Yamaha was doing. Yamaha had the biggest contingency program back then for riders. And I was kind of, parlaying all this together and figured out where we could be within that, and obviously within the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, we worked hard at it. The top money wasn't the top of what Yamaha and Kawasaki was doing, but I took it further down than they did. So,
and it's definitely not the way it used to be, right? Like now, I don't think the contingency is as high as what it was even then, right?
No.
So what is that? Why?
Basically, the amount of people that are racing.
Unit sales it comes out to, is that right? Interesting. Okay, so take me to the road race stuff. Like you said, Mladen and Spies were both crushing when you came in there.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have any road race experience prior to that, or?
No, not really.
Okay.
I mean, the most experience I had was the well, I take it back. In 81? No, it was when Danny got hurt in 80. I ended up going back to the office as a mechanic. And that's when Randy Momola showed up to do Laguna Seca.
Okay.
He ended up doing Laguna Seca this one year. And they asked me to haul his stuff up there. So that was really my first glimpse into professional road racing.
Were you working on the bike at all, or no? You were just transferring?
No, there's a guy, but
that's a totally different animal.
Yeah. There's a guy by the name of George Vukmanovich, who is Randy's mechanic, and he got me to do a couple of just medial things for him. The way they mix gas was intriguing to me back then.
How's that?
You basically dumped the gas into the oil and then mixed it like a paint, basically, is how he wanted me to do it. And it was like, oh, okay. That's kind of a new way.
Backwards. What was there a reason for it?
Yeah. They wanted a good mixture of oil and gas. They were two strokes back then. Remember?
Yeah.
Yeah. For us, we would take a gas can and just shake it.
Yeah.
That's not good enough. I guess not. But that was just one of the quirks that those guys used to do.
Were you, so you get to go up and watch Momola race at Laguna. That's a pretty big deal I'm sure you had pit access and all that. Was it impressive to you, or you're like, this is cool?
Oh, yeah. It was. I mean, even back then, the bikes were way more sophisticated than what we were running. They were 4 cylinders, and they had all these parts and pipes and stuff like that.
And those 2-strokes sounded pretty nasty.
They were crazy.
Yeah. Scary to ride, it sounds like.
Yeah. You can ask Kevin Schwantz about that.
Well, we had Steve Wise on, and he was talking about
Steve Wise.
Is it the NSR? What was the bike that they had? It was a 2-stroke 500 that he goes, it almost killed him.
Yeah.
He said when the power would come on.
Like I said, ask Kevin Schwantz.
Yeah, does Schwantz get spit off a bit?
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, so take me through your time there in the road racing world. What stands out from you? some memories you have?
Oh, not. I mean, the Ben Spies stories, obviously, bringing him through and watching him become who he was.
So you were part of bringing him from pretty young age?
Yeah, we brought him up. Like I said, Jeff Wilson found him, and I just kind of worked with him and helped him on through. And then he ended up with the Yoshimura group. And back then, that was Mr. Ito was running the Yoshimura program for the factory.
Okay.
If you remember, Yoshimura was just road racing for a lot of years.
And that was when you guys put your race shop into their building? Was it about that time?
Not yet.
Oh, not quite yet. Okay.
Yeah, not quite.
Okay. But good memories from the road race stuff?
Yeah.
And then what year was it where the wheels kind of fell off? And I'm curious to get your take on that, because if I remember right, the road racing here was quite strong, I would say.
Yeah.
And then there was some changes that were going to be implemented or something, and Honda said, all right, well, we're done then.
It's called production rule.
Was that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. And that was kind of the beginning of the end, and road racing just disappeared here.
Yeah.
Sadly. And it is trying to come back. I don't know. What's your take on it?
Well, for me, the best part was in 2017. We'd been running production-based bikes for a number of years there. And then when Moto America came in, we were able to convince them to, let's try works bikes. And they'd already, Wayne had already thought about it anyways, but we got together with Wayne and, we ended up basically with pretty much a works bike.
Okay.
For road racing.
And they're still running that, like that class?
Yeah, but it's tamed down from there.
Okay.
It's, they're, like anything else, they've modified the rules to try to get as many people into road racing as possible.
Yeah. There's some neat things they're doing, like that beggar class. It's odd to me, but it's definitely drawing in a new crowd, and it seems like they have a pretty good plan of different classes to people involved.
Yeah, they had when they started out, they had a great junior program. Started out with the KTMs, I believe, and then migrated to the Kawasaki's. As Yamaha for a short time, and then Kawasaki as well. We were never part of it, but I was always watching it, being from the amateur side a little bit, watching these kids coming up.
So what's your take on the way that it dissolved? Do you think that is this an AMA thing again, or what?
No, it's just.
And why did Honda just pull out like that? I mean,
well, if you remember, Honda was in and out of various things. Even motocross, they pulled the plug a few times during my history. Yeah.
And does that again go back to the top of the pile in Japan?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Basically,
ultimately,
I believe so. Again, I'm only guessing.
Sure.
But Honda, as a racing entity, it goes from the factory to the distributor, and the distributor's basically the pocket, and it comes out of their pocket more than the factory. For us, it was very much it was factory backed, and yes, some of it came out of American Suzuki, but a good number of the works race stuff was factory backed.
Yeah, there's a dynamic there, and you just knowing the inner workings of these Japanese companies, that's why I pick your brain so hard on it. Like even the World Supercross stuff that's going on. When I see companies like Honda just actively pushing back on it so hard, going, not only are we not supporting it, anyone that does support it, we're not going to support them. They told Ken Roxon, you go race those rounds, you're fired. Colt Nichols, when they hired him for Supercross this year, they said, if you go do those rounds, we're not hiring you. They're actively pushing against it, and I just think that's strange to me. I get it. If you're American Honda, you don't want that to come out of your budget because that's your focus is America. I get it. But Honda of Japan or any of the manufacturers, and I'm just using Honda as an example, wouldn't they go, oh yeah, Supercross globally, that's cool, let's throw some money at that. let's allocate some budget for that. I mean, how do you see all that?
Very much like Honda. It's our riders, it's our money, and now we're going to go to Europe and advertise. How does that equate?
So the Japanese manufacturers won't allocate any budget for that and say, okay, this isn't coming out of yours. We're going to add extra to go do this.
Right.
Are they not doing that? Is that the pushback?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
And again, I'm just guessing.
Yeah.
I don't believe so. Again, why would I advertise for Europe when an American?
I totally get it. If you are American Suzuki, Yamaha Motor Corporation USA, I get it.
Yeah.
I just think a rising tide floats all boats. If we can grow Supercross everywhere, it grows it here too.
Yeah.
It seems really odd to me that these companies are pushing back that hard. Like, why aren't they going to Honda Japan, Suzuki Japan, Yamaha Japan, and going, hey guys, can you guys find some budget for this? This could be good everywhere.
Well,
and Supercross may not be huge in Indonesia, but you sell a lot of little scooters. You know what I mean?
Right. But kind of that comes up to the promoter too.
He should be addressing them and not coming here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. But again, we're our own corporation.
Right.
And, sometimes we allow our guys to go race over there. But, sometimes you end up with a problem. When they go over there, they get hurt.
Yeah.
And then you're out all this money that you've put into them.
You're rolling the dice that, well, maybe him racing over there will be good to prep for us here, right? Like, maybe it could be an advantage. It's certainly, we've had definitely a lot of cases where guys get hurt.
Weston Pike's a good example.
Yeah. So I get that. I just was curious, and you answered my question. It's really those promoters should be going to Japan. Because Japan can allocate budget for global
They can
stuff, right?
influence.
Okay.
Again, we're our own corporation, but we do follow what Japan tells us to do.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, I just thought it was interesting because I for me, as a racer and as a fan, I want to see these guys be able to make a living the best way they can. And at the end of the day, there's not enough rides here for the number of talented riders we have. So I think it's important that we have Arena Cross, and it's important that we have even another series over there, wherever globally, so that guys who are either not quite going to make it here, they've done the privateer thing for a few years and they're good, they're making mains, but as well as I do, 18th in the main every weekend does not make.
No.
So
no, you can't put gas in your body.
So those guys, or even guys retiring, Roxon, Muscan, maybe Tomac in a year or two, like, it gives them a place to go and still grow the sport globally, right? Like, to me, it just makes sense.
Well,
and it's become a lot of infighting, and it's odd to me the manufacturers don't get engaged in a way that makes sense. And I get it shouldn't come out of U.S. budget, but it just all seems a little strange to me.
Yeah, on your side of it. But you look at guys like Roger DeCoster. He came over here. Suzuki sent him, but it was Suzuki Japan sent him over to get, just like you're saying, get enthusiasm into the U.S. market.
So it really needs to come from the manufacturers themselves.
Yeah.
Okay. So how long were you with the road racing department there?
Well, up until my retirement.
Oh, you were?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. That's what I was curious about.
I worked with Don Sakakura for a few years there, quite a few years.
Okay. What else?
He was the head of Yoshimura Racing.
Okay. So you worked pretty closely with them for the last 2 decades, huh?
Yeah, pretty close.
Yeah. Were you involved in anything else? Like, were you touching a lot of the motocross stuff at that time as well, or was it just...
Well, I was still in charge back then. So yes, on that side. It wasn't until, trying to think, 2016 maybe, 15, that we split up the department. And I I was doing road racing, and then Chris Wheeler was doing the motocross side.
Okay. Chris Wheeler, another kid you helped.
Yeah.
Who comes in and ends up working with you. That's interesting stuff too. Do you still talk to Tosh and Hide and...
Unfortunately, Tosh passed away quite a few years ago.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He was 95 when he passed away, so
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah.
And Mel Harris passed.
Unfortunately.
Cancer, bummer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I learned that just about a year ago too.
Oh, really?
He kept it really quiet.
Good guy.
Great guy. He did a lot.
He did a lot for me.
For this sport. I mean, yeah. Gosh, that's a bummer. Is there any other folks at Suzuki that you'll remain friends with? I mean, you had such a career there.
There's a few that I keep in touch with. Hide, not so much.
Not so.
He's been.
Is he still here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, his whole family's here.
Mm.
So, guy by the name of Aki Goto. I keep in touch with him now and then.
Yeah.
When I was helping out at SSR, there's a few guys from Suzuki that
went there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So,
and that's one of the things you've been doing. I while we were off air, asked you what you've been doing since you retired. And SSR is a company that imports some Chinese bikes, and they actually have big bikes and everything now. They were kind of pit bikes when they started, it seemed like, but you guys have full-size models over there now.
Yeah, they're heading in that direction, yeah. UTVs.
Side-by-side market's big, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think is, in your opinion, like I said, you've been at Suzuki through so many cool eras, what's your favorite? You know, like the Barnett era, obviously you probably have a soft spot for Danny.
Yeah, well, yeah, but if you're looking at pure championships, it'd have to be right around 2004 in that period, when Ricky Carmichael came in, and I wasn't running that program at the time. That was the factory program Roger was running. But if you look at that period, my amateur program had exploded back then. We were winning a lot of championships and all different styles.
Yeah. So that's a strong spot for you. I'm curious what you think about when Roger came over. He's just got so much influence. You know what I mean? The manufacturers will listen if he says, no, I need this. Yeah. He's very good at selling it.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at KTM now.
Well, exactly. This is my point. When Honda brought him over originally, then when he came to Suzuki, he did the same thing, and he went to KTM, did the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm curious if you were just excited to see that he was able to build that program up, get the funding for it, like get what he needed, or were you kind of like, man, I've been asking for this for years. This guy comes over and just gets it. I just wonder what your kind of thoughts were.
Yeah, a little of both.
Yeah.
No, it was good to have Roger show up. And he, like you said, he brought in quite a bit of money from the factory. They trusted him, obviously.
Yeah. And it seems like, that just makes all the difference. You know, when I try to, it's just interesting to me to watch the eras that these different manufacturers, kind of the tide goes up and down, right?
Yep.
Star Yamaha right now, just killing it. But now, after 20 years of kind of Honda struggling, now they got the Lawrence brothers. Now they look like they're on a run, right? So you just kind of look in and go, well, why? Why? What changed? Are the bikes that much better? Not really. You know, I mean, Roger just, like I said, he got the factory enthused about racing again and said, I need this, this, and this, and I will win. And he puts together the team. They give him the budget. He develops the bike, and holy cow, you guys won a lot through that window.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Not just Ricky, but Dungy and Reed and James coming over. Like, I don't know how many race wins happened through that little period, but
quite a few.
Yeah.
I don't know as if we calculated those. I was on the road racing side a little bit more, and at one point we had dominated. We had surpassed Honda, Yamaha, and the rest of them in road racing.
Is that right?
You know, and that was all thanks to having Matt and Ben. having those two battle it out between each other.
Yeah, it was like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
You guys were killing it. What about in the 90s? Like I said, there was a period with Damon Huffman, Lusk, Swink, where you guys were winning 125 races left and right. Cooper won the 125 outdoor title in 90, I believe, right? Was that a fun time? It seemed like a fun period. I was on the outside looking in a little bit, but
it was fun. But again, I was doing the amateur stuff back then, so I was everywhere.
Yeah. You just had a toe dipped in it, and good luck.
Yeah. Well, we brought Ezra up from our group.
Yep.
So it was nice it's always nice to see the guys you bring up do good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even like you, it was rewarding for me bringing you up as an amateur and seeing you crawl through the rest.
Yeah. Well, far as I got, it was fun. But like I said, you've made memories you may not even realize the core memories that different kids you've worked with have that involve you. Because it's a big deal getting that letter, or I guess it would be an email now or a text. I don't know how you guys send it, but for me, like that.
I don't know how Chris is doing it now.
It's a very big deal. So tell me how, your retirement kind of, were you ready to retire? I know you said there was a lot of movement at Suzuki, and
I was hoping to make it to 70, but
just because you like to work, or
yeah. But I had a good run. I mean, let's face it. And like I brought up earlier, it wasn't a job.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of fun.
Becomes kind of like family, and
yeah, I do absolutely miss that part of it.
Yeah. But you could still get a credential and show up to any race you want to do and walk around, and everyone's going to, all the people you've known.
I don't know anymore.
Really?
Yeah, and the pro motocross side, they don't know me from Adam.
That turns over pretty quickly.
Yeah. Obviously, there's a few guys that I know, but
yeah. Is road racing the same, where the turnover is that quick?
Not really.
Okay.
There is turnover, but the guys stay a bit longer.
In motocross, I would say within 3 years, if you take a 3-year hiatus and go back, you might only know a couple people. I mean, it is just mechanics, managers, riders. Yeah, turns over very quickly. Okay, $1 million question here. Talk to me a little bit about what you think is going on at Suzuki. We've had, from the motocross side anyway, and actually, no, not from that, from even road race side, racing side. We mentioned off camera a minute ago, Suzuki wins the MotoGP World Championship. This is the biggest motorcycle championship you can win, I believe, right? Am I wrong on that?
No. It's Formula One of bikes.
And then the very next year they go, all right, we're out. I mean, what goes into that decision? Here on the motocross side, we haven't had a change to those bikes in 5 years. And then prior to that, it hasn't changed much in a decade or so. So
no, it's been a while.
What's going on? Does this go back to the head of Suzuki in Japan?
Obviously, but I'd like to hope that they're gearing back up for something else.
Okay.
Like I recall back in the mid 80s when we were on a downturn back then a bit, and they had changed. They had taken their manufacturing facility and moved it to a new facility. So there was that lull period that we had while they were changing manufacturing.
Okay.
They've done the same again, like I said earlier, with the mountain manufacturing facility.
What was the place they were with the earthquake?
Fukushima.
Fukushima.
Yeah, that was way up north, obviously, but it affected, I think, the decisions that they were making because both our testing track and the facility that produces the motorcycles and the outboard motors was right on the coast. So I think somebody made a decision that we can't be there because we could lose everything.
Yeah, if a tsunami comes in and destroys your whole place,
Yeah. Where are you?
you're out of business potentially, right?
Yeah. So the decisions that are made are way above me.
Sure. I just, better than probably any other American human being on the planet, right? Like what might be going on there. And that sheds a lot of light on it.
Yeah. I would hope that the same thing that went on in the 80s is going on right now.
Okay.
Is that they built this new manufacturing facility and
you said they're kind of going up towards the mountains, up into some elevation.
Yeah.
It's crazy that you got to think like that out there, but that was pretty devastating. The videos are horrific.
Yeah.
What do you see if you looked into your crystal ball? I'm really torn on this whole electric movement. I just think, well, this is cool in a way. It's quiet. Maybe we won't anger so many people, right? Like dust and noise are our two biggest problems.
Yeah.
This gets rid of one of them. But then I think they're pushing it for environmental reasons. And if you really just do a little digging, it's not better environmentally. I mean, you'll literally have to charge an electric bike with a gas generator. The materials they use to make the batteries, if you follow that trail back to mining, that is catastrophic for the environment. So it's all just, a different way of making money for different people. That's the way I see it. Well, regardless of the political side of it, do you see electric moving forward in our sport, like kind of becoming the norm?
I think we're forced into it. I don't know of a lot of people that would like to see an electric professional race in motocross. You can't hear it, for one. And I come from, 2-stroke to 4-stroke, the eras that generations that we've gone through.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this is just going to be another iteration of what's going to happen for us. And it's perpetrated by the world. Basically Europe's decided that they're going to be all electric in the next few years. I have a hard time understanding it myself, but I ride an electric bike.
Yeah. No, listen, and like I said, I think that there is a place for it. It's fun. They're really fun to ride.
Yeah.
But when you talk about making everyone, mandating it, we can't even generate that kind of power. We're getting told in Southern California to turn our air conditioners off in the summer because the grid can't handle it.
Yeah.
Well, I have to leave my car plugged in. I can't get to work the next day. So what do you want me to do here? We just tend to get the cart before the horse, and on that side of it too. But you think that it's coming, huh?
Well, I mean, I'm just going to reiterate. I think we're forced into it. It's the direction that Europe is going, and most of the world wants to go in, it sounds like. So we're just basically, I shouldn't say follow the leader, but
it's like carb, right? It's a lot like the 4-stroke push.
Yeah.
You didn't have a choice, you had to go 4-stroke. They were pushing on you. And to that end, which this is crazy to me, you can't get a green sticker for any modern bike here if it's not platable. You don't have a bike to go ride anymore.
Basically.
I mean, I don't know if people really see.
You go to Glen Helen, you're okay, but
right, a track. But if you want to go to Ocotillo or Johnson Valley or whatever,
just stay away from the Ranger.
Yeah, you're breaking the law essentially on any modern bike. It's crazy to me, and that's scary. As motorcycle fans, we should be pretty concerned about that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where the only place you'll have to ride anymore will be on the street on a street legal bike or on a track. Yeah, that's a bummer. And that's California, but we typically set the tone here. What they get away with here spreads, right?
Yeah. Well, California, it's its own animal too. You got to remember, we have the desert. That's open area for us. Mm-hmm. But if you go back east, there's a lot of woods back there,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of woods riding. There's a lot going on.
Yeah, and if they follow suit,
it'll be bad.
It'll be really bad, man.
Yeah.
And as fun as the electric bikes are, when you can only go 45 minutes, maybe an hour tops if you're cruising, and then you got to wait for 3 hours to charge.
Yeah. Better have another battery.
Yeah. That's interesting. So do you have any insight into, will Suzuki get back into MotoGP? Do you know why they pulled out of that?
Again, I don't.
Nothing? Okay.
Yeah.
I just figured I'd ask, because to me, that was the craziest thing. I mean, you win the most prestigious championship you can win, and then go, all right, bye. See you later.
Hey, going out a winner.
I guess it's the RC program. And Suzuki, I'm curious to know I have a couple questions. How big is motocross and then motorcycling? Two separate questions there in Suzuki's grand scheme of things. Is it just sort of a marketing tool, or do you guys actually generate a lot of revenue on dirt bikes? And, because I know the marine division of Suzuki is huge. You guys do really well with that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
The automobiles didn't do well here, but they do well in other parts of the world.
Absolutely.
And then scooters, like I mentioned, the little commuter bikes.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I think people don't understand how many of those all the manufacturers sell in different parts of the world. Millions. So dirt bikes over here, I think we get in our little bubble and we just think, motocross bikes, like, why isn't Suzuki pushing these harder? This is like, that's their lifeblood. But dirt bikes are teeny tiny fraction of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And more so with Honda, and I know Kawasaki does a lot of heavy equipment. I mean, Kawasaki Heavy Equipment, or Heavy Industries is the name of their company, right?
Yeah. Well, Suzuki's a car company.
Hmm.
It was a motorcycle company before it was a car. Well, no, they're both together.
Okay.
Because Suzuki, I think their first car was 1952.
Okay.
But they're producing the Coletta back around the same time, if I'm not mistaken. I walked around the museums.
Yeah, I'm sure. I was going to say, you've got a peek into the history of that place like very few people.
Yeah. It was a loom company. It began as a loom company, believe it or not.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So how big is that motorcycle component, dirt bike component, I guess?
It shrank quite a bit over the years. They focused a lot more on the car side of it. If you look at India, for instance, as they have a whole manufacturing facility over in India, and they produced at one point, if I recall, about 1.7 a year million units.
Yeah, the smaller little cars, which a lot of those countries use.
third wheel cars.
Crazy. Yeah, I think, like I said, we get it lost in our little world over here, first world problems, and bang our fists. Why isn't Suzuki making new bikes? It's like, well, if you see the whole big picture, right? It's
Well, if you look at the enthusiast part of it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we were really strong when we were enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
Now I think it's more of a budgetary. It's always been budgetary, but I think there's less enthusiast management there than what used to be.
Yeah. And that changes everything. And that's why it will always ebb and flow. Yeah. Yeah. Same with all of them, right?
Yeah.
So I guess the big question that I know everybody wants to know is Suzuki going to just pull out of motocross bikes altogether? Can you see that happening? Is that a possibility?
I would hope not, but anything's possible.
You're not really helping me here, Pat.
Well, again, I'm just a small cog in the whole spectrum.
Yeah, but you also have a lot of years of watching this company operate, and
well, like I said, I hope what happened in the '80s happens again.
Yeah,
where they're just gearing back up
for a bigger run. Okay, well, let's hope for that. As far as the two-strokes, I know Chris even made a push at one point to bring back a two-stroke line. Went to Loretta's with a couple of prototype bikes and got signatures and the whole thing. Did that fall on deaf ears?
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, From their perspective, tell me what they think and say. Because I feel like Yamaha still sells a lot of them.
Yeah.
KTM still sells, all their group sells a lot of them.
Yeah. But I think it's a matter of focus and who's taking the focus in that direction. Well, Suzuki's been building four-strokes for a while now. They just don't want to go backwards. Pretty hard-headed about it, I think.
Yeah. Well, and I thought that maybe the one brand would do it would be them because
we started out as two-stroke company.
Well, right, and didn't Suzuki buy Evinrude and their two-stroke fuel-injected technology? If I remember right,
they bought Evinrude.
Okay,
but I don't know where that all ended up. Because I wasn't.
I know that's not your division.
A part of the outboard division.
Well, Evinrude had really dialed in this direct injected, fuel injected two-stroke motor, and I thought, I wonder if Suzuki will take that and adapt that to a two-stroke motocross bike. They certainly have the ability to do it, and it just didn't happen. So that's why I was curious.
Yeah, but we did
for marine.
No, for motocross, we had fuel injected bikes before anybody else
on the four-stroke, right?
Yeah, on the four-stroke.
I thought maybe the two-stroke because they got that.
There was some long talks about that.
Yeah.
With my guys, because back at one point, everybody was having problems with carburetors at Supercross.
Mm-hmm.
Remember?
Oh yeah, the dreaded bog.
Yeah, and I was pushing for another direction. Pumper carbs, like go-kart pumper carbs and stuff like that, because we knew what was going on. We just couldn't fix it at the time.
That's interesting. All right, I'm going to get rid of that there. So what's next for you? Tell me about, you still going to you're sort of doing some, just helping different places
I help my buddy out at Boyko Racing now and then, Ted,
yeah.
I did some stuff with it, SSR, just kind of, I am retired, ride my mountain bike when I can, just.
And what are your kids up to? You spend a lot of time. I didn't realize you had such a young son still.
Yeah.
You got started late on that one.
Yes, I did. Yeah, I kind of saw what was going on in the industry. A lot of people are getting divorced and stuff because back then, I was traveling almost every weekend.
Well, when you're telling me you're ahead of all of these series and you're doing the first, middle, and last round, I'm going, that's a lot of flying around.
Yeah. About 2 million miles.
Yeah.
Just in American Airlines. Ask Slicer, he's got more.
Does he really?
Yeah. But yeah, McCarty's a good example too. He's probably got a zillion miles.
I don't know how you guys do it. I mean, for me, just the 10 years I raced and a couple years of managing, if I never got an airplane again, that's great. I hated the traveling. And you guys, who've just been in it for this 30, 40 year runs, how do you guys do it, man?
Well, it started back in 82 for me.
Yeah. Driving back then, I guess you've only been flying probably 30 years.
No, 82 I started.
Oh, really? Started flying?
Because I was race manager. I wasn't driving around and
that's true
anymore.
At least flying has gotten better in a few cents. No?
It's absolutely
Well, there's nobody smoking next to you anymore.
Well, that's true. It has absolutely gone downhill.
No, the security and I know. Yeah, it's gotten worse in a lot of ways, but I remember sitting on some international flights and I said, I need to be in the no smoking section. Okay, no problem. I'm like right up the row in front of me is smoking. I'm like, okay, thank you. This is like, telling me there's a no peeing section in a pool. I mean, smoke everywhere.
Yeah, you're about my height. We don't have too much of a problem getting in economy seats.
No,
right?
No.
But I can't imagine anybody another couple of inches taller than us. The seats have gotten so much closer now. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. Very true. Is there anything else in the industry that you would want to do still, or are you kind of, I'm good?
Yeah, again, I just like tinkering with them. Doesn't matter what it is. But
So when you say like you're helping Teddy, are you building engines and kind of actually? Okay, more business side.
No. I'm just kind of taking engines apart, and he's rebuilding them and stuff like that. I'm just kind of doing that side of it. You got to remember, I've been out of it for a lot of years,
but you still enjoy it.
Yeah,
the tinkering's fun. Yeah. I know Pro Circuit's hiring in the service department.
That's out in Corona. That's too far away. Yeah, for me, I about 35 miles is my max.
Yeah, I don't blame you. What do you think? What's retirement look like for you when you decide to say, okay, I'm done completely, no more help? I mean, I'm done. Where do you think you'll be? What do you do?
That trail out back, that mountain bike trail, still a lot of fun.
I think we need to get you back in the water on a longboard.
Yeah, maybe
get some surfing going again. Back to your roots. Grow your hair out real long. Well, listen, I sure appreciate you taking the time to come in. It means a lot. You had a huge impact on a lot of riders' lives, and you've been a huge part of this sport.
Well, thank you. I've had a great time.
Yeah, I gotta believe you have. We always ask kind of one last question of all of our guests, and that's how you want to be remembered in the sport.
That I help people get from point A to point B. I was just another guy that brought people through.
Yeah. Well, as a guy that you helped bring through, you did exactly that. So,
well, thank you.
You can be real proud of that. Thank you so much, man. And thanks for all your work and effort in the sport, man.
Yeah.
You guys like you are what keeps it going. So
we had a fun run.
It was. Yes, it was. Well, thanks again. Thank you guys for watching. Stick around here. We'll be right back to wrap up the show.
I wanna be bad with you, girl, like we're robbing a bank. I wanna be mad at the world, like it took you away.
All right, guys, that's our show. Thanks for stopping in. Sure appreciate Pat Alexander's time. 43 years at Suzuki. This guy really lived the yellow magic life, and I'm sure there's a lot of stories locked in there that he can't tell. Shared a few of them off air, but some of them are just a little too rowdy. But what a great guy, and like I said, for me personally, even just very, very influential. When you talk about a guy who brought up riders like Ben Spies and Travis Pastrana, and in all of these different disciplines, just what a huge heavy lifter for Suzuki and our sport in general. So stoked that he made it in and was able to tell his story. Listen, folks, I say this all the time. I'll repeat it again. Just please support our sponsors if you can. We sure appreciate it. Folks like Yamaha, this show doesn't come to you without them. They're making the best motocross products right now. The 450 is hands down the best production bike. The 250 for 2024 is getting all of those same changes. Cannot wait to get on that thing. The two strokes are awesome. The side-by-sides, generators, everything they make that we as motocross fans would be interested in, top quality. And just some incredible partners like Method Race Wheels, which we have a 20% off discount code for, SKDA, Nihilo Concepts, Seat Concepts, Motul, TLD. These are premium brands. Everybody up here on the board, Pro Circuit, Pro X, Stasic, Dunlop, Specialized, elite level products. And we really make sure we curate who we partner with here so that the folks that we're telling you to please patronize, it's only high level stuff. And you're not going to be disappointed in any of their products. So thank you to those folks for being a part of this show. We really appreciate it. And as always, check out everything else we have going on at whiskeythrottlemedia.com, our social channels, YouTube, etc. And just coming online, Whiskey Throttle Racing. If you are not aware, we are bringing back the Elsinore GP this November, Veterans Day weekend. We will have all kinds of fun events, fun classes. The Harvey Mushman Classic will be back. We're going to have some night racing, a lot of classes for veterans, fire, police, military, etc. So check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. As always, I appreciate you guys' support and everything you do to keep this program rolling. We'll see you soon. We got more shows planned. Talk to you later. The Whiskey Throttle Show is brought to you by Yamaha. Join the Blue Crew today and take advantage of all that Yamaha has to offer, including amateur racing trackside support, Jason Rain's demos and instructional classes, and frankly, the most high-performing motorcycles available on the market today. Whether you're looking for a 4-stroke, a 2-stroke, a side-by-side, a quad, a boat, a generator, Yamaha prides themselves on absolute top-level quality and reliability. Rev your heart with Yamaha and join the Blue Crew today. Method Race Wheels, bringing you the lightest, strongest, fastest wheels in off-road for your truck, van, sprinter, UTV, or SUV. They've been dominating the Baja 500 and 1000 and every major off-road event around the world for years with high quality and performance. They also look amazing. They come in a bunch of different styles and colors for your rig, so check them out. You can get 20% off a set of wheels using our code Whiskey Throttle. No capitals, no spaces. 20% off using our code. Check them out. Troy Lee Designs is the leader in off-road motocross apparel and style. So whether you're looking for a cool new paint job for your helmet, maybe your name and number on your helmet lettered on, you're looking for new gear, you're looking for mountain bike gear, off-road gear. They've got the brand new Scout line and GP and SE models. Troy Lee Designs has it all. They've been leading this industry for decades, and they're going to continue to do it. Check out TroyLeeDesigns.com. SKDA is a moto graphics and seat covers company with several offices based around the globe. For too long, bikes and graphics have all looked the same. They just start to blend together. SKDA is working to change that. With super clean and unique design work, a bike with SKDA graphics stands out in a crowd and adds a touch of art to the world of moto. Hey, we need that. SKDA prides itself on providing premium customer service both before and after the sale is made. Visit SKDA online to view the current product range and get in touch with their team to get your bike refreshed. I want to just make a mention here that these guys, not only is their design way outside the box, very, very cool. They'll work with you on custom things. The products are incredible. Okay, they'll speak for themselves. But what's really awesome, and you'll notice this the minute you order one of these, man, they give you an email saying, hey, the product's been shipped. Hey, the product is here. It landed in this spot. Hey, it's coming today. Hey, your product's been delivered. They just so good about staying in touch with you and letting you know where it's at. Customer service is 100%, and that's just something that's rare these days. Check out SKDA. Here at the Whiskey Throttle Show, we're all about supporting brands that support our sport. And there's one tire company that has never walked away from the sport of motocross and supercross, and it's Dunlop. When times got tough and the economy took a crash, Dunlop stepped up and stayed with our sport to support it and the athletes and individuals that love it. Their MX53 line and MX33 lines absolutely dominate this sport. Every national championship at the pro level has been won in the last decade, and nearly every single amateur national championship at Loretta Lynn's has been won on a Dunlop. So if you're looking for high performance, you're looking for amazing quality, and you're looking to support a brand that never turns its back on our sport, there's only one choice for you, and it's Dunlop. Pro Circuit is the leader in aftermarket performance and quality. Whether you're looking for a little more horsepower out of your engine, some quality hard parts to improve the way your bike feels and looks, better handling through suspension or linkage arms, Pro Circuit is where you need to stop. It's your one-stop shop. You can go in there and get everything you need to make your motorcycle go from average to exceptional. Pro Circuit's got enough number one plates on their wall to side an entire home, and there's a reason for that. They're very, very good at what they do. The highest quality products with one goal in mind, and that's winning. Check out ProCircuit.com. Nihilo Concepts is leading the way in aftermarket hard parts. With their secondary on-switch device, something that was much needed in this sport, they've been innovating and bringing new products to market. Their latest is the new Nihilo Run Cool brake pistons. They're designed to be stronger than stock and provide exceptional cooling performance with less brake drag. Most OEM calipers pistons are made from aluminum that just can't hold up to the heat and extreme demands of serious racing. When they get hot, the aluminum will distort, causing loss of hydraulic pressure and brake failure. Nihilo's Run Cool pistons limit the area that boiling hot hydraulic fluid is able to come in contact with the piston, leaving 2/3 of the piston volume in open air with breather holes to enhance the cooling ability. It's made of a proprietary stainless blend, which is better at dissipating heat. You have issues with brake fade or brake failure, check out Nihilo Concepts among their many amazing hard parts and carbon fiber parts and titanium. NihiloConcepts.com. Seat Concepts is the leader in motorcycle saddles. If you're looking for a new cover or a new seat entirely, Seat Concepts is the place to go. They make custom seat foams catered to your height, weight, riding ability, riding type. They also have waterproof covers and foams that will not break down if you ride in a lot of inclement weather. and they pride themselves on being much more comfortable than OEM or any other aftermarket company. If you're looking for a new seat or a new cover, Seat Concepts, there's nothing better. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than ProX. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters. If it wears out, ProX makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for the Polaris RZR 800s. Need to replace something on your bike that's worn out? Look no further than ProX. These guys aim to make everything OEM quality or better at an affordable price. And they've also got some new products coming. So right now, chains, sprockets, anything inside the engine internally, air filters. If it wears out, ProX makes it, and they make it at a quality level that's OEM or better. And they've got some new things coming that are awesome. A complete engine rebuild kits for the... If you've got a little Grom that's looking to get started in the motorcycle world, the best way to get them going is on a Stasic bike. They've got multiple sizes, so from your very young Groms to those who are a little more grown up, you can start them safely. They've got controls that allow you to control the speed so he can't get going too quick. They can touch the ground. There's not a lot of noise to distract them. It's the perfect way to get your child involved in motorcycling at a very young age. And if you've got a kid who's already out ripping, there's series popping up all over. For those of you in Southern California, go to www.ameminicross.com and join their local series. If you're outside of this state, contact your local track and ask them about starting a Stasic class at your local track. Get over to Stasic.com and check out all they've got going on. Motul USA, we lean hard on these lubricants to keep us on the track and on the trail. And Motul has proven their quality over and over, most recently with their Dakar win with Ricky Brabeck. They're sponsoring Supercross teams. They're diving into our sport again full throttle, and we're stoked to have them on board. Amazing products, top to bottom. Motul USA, go check them out. And finally, last but not least, Specialized Bicycles. If you are in the market to start pedaling, this is where you want to start. They've got great entry-level bikes all the way up to the Cadillac, the new Levo e-bike, anything in between, man. It doesn't matter what kind of riding you're doing. Go check out and start with Specialized. Don't waste your time on something that's going to break. The derailler's not going to shift after a couple months. Get something quality. These guys make it. Specialized leads that industry.
Thanks for watching and listening to the Whiskey Throttle Show. Be sure to like and subscribe to get notified when new shows go up. And be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok. And visit whiskeythrottlemedia.com for additional content.